We are live. Welcome to the Iron Rations live stream with Joe the lawyer
Hey guys, how you doing? We
and
are.
myself, Eric Tenkar. So, Joe and I did our normal hours and hours of pre-show prep.
Yeah,
Ju-
scrambling between taking a leak and running back to the computer for 5 minutes.
yeah, it's the normal heavy lifting that gets done before doing these live streams.
Yeah.
But actually, I'm going to mention something that Joe had brought up to me as a possibility, and it's an interesting idea, and I'd love to get feedback either from the live listeners, the podcast listeners. You know how to get in touch with me uh, when it comes to leaving me a message on Anchor, or you can leave a voicemail at 347-509-5168. The idea is
And before
that,
you start, Eric, just one quick
yes,
interruption. I think I'm
yes,
hearing static on your end. Anyone else listening hearing Eric being staticky, or is it me? All of a sudden, I'm
static.
just hearing a little. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. That's weird. That's
We got
weird.
four. We got four. If you're listening on YouTube, give us a comment if you hear static. I don't not hear the static.
Yeah, I'm hearing it. It could be my headset or something. I don't know. But yeah, let us know.
I
Let us
don't
know.
know.
But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. What I was going to say is, folks, the idea is, as opposed to me doing a podcast on a daily basis and stuff for the live streams, sharing that stuff after the fact. So yeah, YouTube gets the podcast episodes, but it's a static image for the most part. Um, I could record stuff for YouTube and then convert it to the podcast. The end results for either side, like for the podcast side, really won't change. But for the YouTube side, you get better than a static image. You get to see my lovely face 7 days a week. I don't know if you really want that, but it's just a possibility. We're throwing it out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's 6 of one, half dozen the other, but it's a good way to grow the YouTube community, and bring people over because they guess sometimes they're in a lot of times you're not doing a podcast which has a need for showing something, but if you do, you could always show it in the YouTube video, and then you could just carry that over to the podcast world. You know what I mean? Rather than do a podcast and carry it to the YouTube video, it's more like I said, more dynamic and visual aids, showing
There
the
you go.
latest thing you got.
All right, and I could have had visual aids today, but I screwed up my screen share because I have a new computer setup. But that's besides the point. Neither here nor there. So, Joe, which of our multiple topics would you like to start off with?
Well, I got a little easy one because there's like, I don't know what you call it, proof or evidence. I don't know. I was just thinking, I was looking for ideas, looking for topics earlier. Believe it or not, I did a little bit of research, and I was just saying, let's see what's stirring over in the EN world. I don't go there, since the ban and fuck them, but all that. But
Now, time out. And I've mentioned you come up in conversations, or I've mentioned it on the podcast side that you have one of those unique distinctions over in the world. But why don't you explain to the listeners, to the viewers, what that distinction is?
Well, for a bit, I was posting long things over on the N world, right? N world, the N world, whatever you want to call it. I started doing like long thought pieces rather than just your typical stir up the shit, quick and dirty, whatever, discuss one narrow topic. And people were like bitching about it. So why don't you just go post this in the EN World blog area? I'm like, well, why? I mean, somebody might want to discuss it or whatever. So then I left. I did the blog area. Nobody read it. So I'm like, fuck it. The blogs were starting at the time. So I'm going to start my own fucking blog. So I went over to the Blogger, and that's where and also I went over to the RPG site because they could say whatever the hell you want over there. They don't care. It's like the Moss Isley spaceport of the hobby back then, right?
Still is.
The pool of scum and villainy. Is that how they would have? Yeah, I mean, I like it because there's no censorship. You say whatever the hell you want, no matter what side you're on. They'll just put it, unless you're obviously doing something evil to somebody, whatever. But anyway, so I went over there and I started my blog and this and that. And then I don't know. I guess I talked some shit about Morris over on my own personal blog, and he banned me on the N world. So for the shit I said, not even on the N world. So since then I don't go over there. But I mean, the case remains. I once in a while like to see what people are talking about over there. It's right. The pasteurized, homogenized vitamin D&D discussion. I call it. You know what I mean? It's all sterilized, and there's like nothing allowed that's interesting or diverse. But I figured, let me see. and there's not much going on. Here's what I've noticed, right? It's that if you look at the first page as a default person without somebody who says, give me 300 topics in my first page, the default view of it, I don't know, might get you 50 topics. Page 1, all right, brings you down to last Thursday in terms of the most recent Thursday, which is yesterday, in terms of the most recent update.
Right.
And Thursday at 8:27. Now you go to page 2, and now you're all the way to hell back to Monday, right? And page 3, and you're back to the bottom of page 3, all the way to hell back to March 4th. And again, most of these topics aren't new topics. They're even on the page 1 topics. A lot of them are old. They're not like a topic that was started, recently or anything like that. And so I'm thinking, Jesus, man, these old ass topics dragging out, people still talking about them. Not only that, they merged all the categories and subcategories. Remember the old DN world had all these various categories. They had so many freaking posts, the old school, new school, various editions of the game, this and that. Now They merged every damn thing under the sun into one Dungeons and Dragons general tabletop discussion category. And they still don't have a lot.
Yeah, they have tags now. So
yeah,
D&D 5e, playtest A5e. That must be his hack of it. Wizards of the Coast. There's D&D general, but and I think that merging of all the subboards or the subforums into one forum is to show a more active forum.
Yeah.
You have a lot of different categories. And actually, it's strange because it's kind of like a discussion I had with, I think, Pex, like last year about the Discord server. Because, you have a lot of areas that don't get used. We should just delete them or hide them. And it's like, but somebody pops in and uses it, like, or comments 5 months down the line. I mean, I'm not paying for it. It's not costing me to have these sections open.
Yeah.
But this way, you get to see everything in, I guess, how recent it has been commented to or posted on, and that first page. My first page does not have 50. Maybe it has. I don't think it does. Probably close to 25.
Yeah, it looks about 50. Maybe. Yeah, it's definitely not 100.
I go back to today at 12:20 p.m. But I remember that forum when, if you refresh the page, you'd have, I don't know, 10 new threads created in the last 10 minutes, not just, threads that are on page, like their own 21st page.
Yeah. I didn't mean this to be a slam on the N world. That was just a happy coincidence. I brought up the topic just as a general point to say, is if they're not going to the N world, and blogs aren't the thing like they used to be, right? And G Plus went away, and I don't know about Facebook because I've never been on the Facebook toxic shit show that is. But where are people talking about it? Where are people going? What this unity? Where are people hanging out within their own groups? Is there a fracturing? Is it that bad? I don't know. Where are people talking about D&D?
Well, listen, we know one place they're talking about. They're talking about it on MeWe because
that's true.
Your D&D group. I really shouldn't say you, but you created it. You are, quote, the owner, whatever they call it on MeWe.
Yeah, but it's all of us, Yeah.
Yeah, it has over 6,000 members, which is pretty damn strong. And look at the groups on Facebook that are D&D centric for 5e, and they are huge. You got Reddit. You still have blogs, but the conversations don't have happens much on blogs as like when we started blogging. When we started blogging, you'd have a topic start on your blog, and I'd comment on your blog, but then I'd do a follow-up post on my blog, and then 17 people would comment on my blog. Probably 2 or 3 tell me I'm full of shit, and then we would go to their blog to start their posts explaining why I'm full of shit. And that was a large part of the community. Now, I think blogs have become
ghetto.
Well, no, not so much ghetto, but they're used differently.
Yeah, yeah. But you
People
know why?
aren't.
Because fucking comments, you have to turn comments off, or else you get 3,000 spams a day. It's
Well,
ridiculous.
that is part of it. I mean, I used to have no. You could comment on the tavern and never. There was no filter.
Yeah,
Okay. And then it was like, oh, geez, I guess I got to do a capture just to keep the spam bots out. All right. And then it was like, oh, and so now these spammers they learned. So
yeah,
what they would do is they would comment on an old post from weeks ago
yeah,
or a year ago, and get their spam comment there, linking to their, I don't know, all weather windows being sold out of
yeah,
Vietnam,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
or whatever, and then so then I was like, all right, so now I have to any post, any comment on a post that's older than 5 days now has to get moderated, and
hmm
then and now when the gaming not the gaming community, but when gaming started becoming very politicized, for lack of a better phrase,
yeah,
about 3 or 4 years ago.
yeah,
Um, and and I'm going to refer to it as they, started going to blogs and communities and people's Twitter, and would uh, do like, they would form their little anger crowd of 5 to 10 and
hmm
just make comments. I was having that happen on the tavern.
I didn't know
Just
that. That's
oh
interesting.
yeah, because I dared uh, highlight Alex McCree's, or Macris,
Oh yeah, that's
his
right.
latest X release,
Yeah, yeah,
and therefore it was the attack Tenkar's blog. So what I did was I said, fuck it, and it's more work to me, but every comment has to get moderated. Now if
hmm
I'm uh, not doing anything, and I got my phone in my hand and I see this new email, because I'll get the email notifications. Oh,
yeah,
someone's, John Smith commented, and I'll look, and if it's not spam, I approve it.
yeah, yeah.
But and I will say, the anger brigade stopped the moment
Took away the
I
voice.
took away the voice.
Yeah,
And although one person was up and said, "Oh, I thought your policy was everybody got a voice," like, uh, yeah, but not when it's to attack people,
yeah,
including myself.
yeah,
That's not a voice. That's
yeah.
not a platform. So sometimes, because I am very pro, freedom of speech.
hmm
As a cop, I defended that shit for people who were marching or protesting, and asking for the death of cops. And I was there going, all
Yeah,
right, these are the people I'm being paid to protect. That's
yeah,
fine. They have that right. So, but at the same time, when you are literally doing it as to shut down the voices of others,
yeah,
that's when you got to take. And in a way, what Morris did to you was shutting down your voice, but he really
mm,
couldn't,
yeah, yeah,
because you had your own platform.
yeah.
Your blog was a very influential blog in the OSR sphere at the time.
That's funny you say that, because I heard you say that the other day, and I didn't think I was. I was just an asshole talking shit about people. I
No,
thought, you know what I mean? And I was just mad. I had a little. I wasn't playing D&D. I was talking about it because I couldn't play, couldn't get in the game. The systems that were out, I didn't really like that much, and it was like, And then I kind of calmed down once I was able to play. But I thought I was just being a dick. I don't know. It's interesting. You thought I'm touched. I appreciate you said that. That's kind of cool. I didn't realize I had any kind of. I was just there, screaming into the clouds or something. I figured, you know what I mean?
oh no, no. Listen, there were a lot of people screaming into the clouds at that point. And I think, back in I guess the heyday of the blogs, you had different tiers of influence.
Hmm.
You had the Grognardia
Yeah,
sphere of influence. Then you had like I said, Bat in the Attic,
yeah,
Bathridge Manor,
yeah,
Joe the Lawyer's Wondrous Imaginings, it was if James Mal was tier 1A, these were the blogs that were tier 1B, which we would go to for great conversations, but they weren't going to be posting, 2 to 5 times a day, which James was
Yeah,
at that point.
I think
God
he's
bless
doing
him.
it again. He's doing a lot again, But yeah, I don't know. I see. I didn't look at my blog as anything special because I would just throw out my opinion for the most part on shit. I wasn't one of those people who were putting creative stuff on their blogs. Like I don't create in a vacuum. You know what I mean? I need to create something for the game that's in front of me on Saturday. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? I can't make like I envy people like Matt Jackson. Here's sassy. I said before in a group that we were all in. It says how soon until we start talking shit about Matt? Everybody's put a wager down. But this ain't not really. It's not talking shit about Matt. He's real creative. Tim, Matt, and Tim from Gothridge Matter and Matt Jackson there. But they could create things just to create it, just to make a map of something, and then just for the fun of it. I was never able to do that. I can't make a magic item or a monster or a map or a dungeon or anything unless it's in front of me on Saturday, and I need to do it because it's Thursday night and shit. I'm out of time and I got to sit down, or more likely it's Saturday afternoon. Shit, I got 4 hours to make this thing up.
You need you got that pressure. That was me in college. That's how I did all my my term papers and research papers. That and a 6-pack.
Yeah, exactly.
I needed that time crunch to get me pushed up against the wall.
Yeah.
And I needed the alcohol to lubricate the thoughts a bit, so I didn't overthink stuff.
And I also needed to have a focus, like to create something in a vacuum. Like I always looked at the guys who put up, like Ragnardia, James Mal. He had the think pieces about the history and the whatever. He was a guy like that. Then he had like people like Jeff Rentz. He'd put up shit that's interesting. I could use that in my game. And I always looked at the people who put up stuff that you could use in your game this Saturday, even if it was not a great fit, you could tinker with it or whatever. I thought those guys were the best bloggers. I thought people like me who just talk shit about whatever it is on their front of freaking mind, kind of like we do here now in our YouTube video. I thought we were like third tier. You know what I mean?
But, it depends. I mean, we're forgetting Chicago Wiz. I mean,
yeah, great guy. He did both. Yeah. He crossed this. He straddled the river. He did creative stuff, and he also put out a lot of great opinions and think pieces on a lot of stuff. Where's he at? What's he doing these days, man? You talked to him?
I actually met him. Was it Game Hall 2019? Maybe it was Game Hall 2018.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my god, he looks like the iconic image of the Chicago Wiz with that little beard going. No, he seems good. It was good to sit down. I think we had a slice of pizza together.
That's cool. I know he had a blog. He had a comeback on his blog for a bit. I don't think did he keep it going? I haven't seen.
I couldn't tell you. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, again, I blog on a daily basis, but at the time we're going back 10 years, I was blogging 2, 3, 4 times a day.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got a full-time job and plenty of time.
Yeah.
Now you're retired. You got no time.
Now I'm retired. It's like, well, now I'm retired and I do a podcast and I do live streams.
Yeah.
So I guess I have other outlets for my communicative creativity. But we didn't really podcasts weren't really a big thing back then. I think that's part of the reason too, is that blogs take a different mindset. The different mindset that's needed to sit down and write a blog post than is needed to sit and do a podcast or a live stream.
Yeah, you got to spend a little time thinking about it and have an opinion and then if not research or you want to sound intelligent, like the people who are still doing it. I love the Swords and Stitchery. His blog, I think it's called
Eric Faberici.
Yeah.
I love that. It's Stitchery. He's a sewing machine repairman and as a sidekick.
Yeah, he lives in Connecticut too. And I actually emailed him before COVID saying, I don't know you live in Connecticut, man. Let's get together sometime. And then bam, the plague hits. And so there we are, But it's Swords and Stitchery, old time sewing and tabletop RPG blog. It's Swords and Stitchery, theblogspot.com. Does great stuff I wish I could have done back then. You know what I mean? Fantastic. He's I don't know, he's just a great fucking blogger. I love reading his shit. But yeah, this goes back to, I guess, what I was saying before, where people are going. And the other topic maybe this leads into is, I think blogs were really helpful for helping me learn how to be a better DM and how to run better games, and gave me ideas and thoughts. It was like a passing along of knowledge, right?
Yeah,
and so
it was almost like that verbal tradition, but not in a verbal manner.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I was, again, researching a little bit today and looking for some stuff to talk about. And, something that struck me was the Alexandrian blog, another great blog, but a lot of good, a lot of good thought, a lot of think pieces in there. Justin Alexander runs it. This is a post from back last May 2020, May 26th. It says, "Wither the Dungeon, the decline and fall of D&D adventures." And he says, he starts off with, "I've talked in the past about how D&D 5th edition doesn't teach DMs how to run dungeons. In fact, it doesn't even teach them how to key a dungeon map or provide an example of a keyed dungeon map." And then he says, "To understand how weird this is, consider that the 5th edition starter set, which I think is fantastic, the Phantom Adventure, includes a detailed explanation of exactly how a DM should use box text, but still doesn't tell the DM how to run the dungeon that's included in the sample adventure. Like, there was a perceived need to very specifically explain how you read text out loud, but not a perceived need to explain how you're supposed to run a dungeon, the thing that's actually unique to being a GM, but I digress." And he goes, then, by contrast, the original 1974 edition contains very specific instructions for both things, how to prep a dungeon and how to run the dungeon. And as it made me think to myself, I'm looking at, and of course, I busted out the 5th edition DM guide. I'm looking at it. And I'm like, Christ, I dismissed it when I first got it because whatever. I just want to have it as magic items for the most part because, I'm going to look at them, see how they're doing it, and understand, blah, blah, blah. But I always kind of never really read it because, what are they going to, I understand arrogant, but it's just not much. I'm not going to read that like I read the AD&D DM guide in 1985, right? And so I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, they do have all this shit in here. They have a lot of stuff in here. And you just look at the table of contents, creating adventures, creating NPCs, adventure environment, between adventures, treasure, running the game, Dungeon Master's Workshop. But for the most part, they talk about all the components of being a DM, but they never tie it together. They never bring it all together about, okay, so now we've told you about random encounter tables. We've told you about NPCs. We've told you about this. Now here's how to be a fucking DM. Right. And so there's no teaching of that. They just give you the components and think you could run with it now. And just because they're there, you're going to figure out how to put it all together. It's like giving a guy nails some pieces of wood and a hammer and say, okay, that's all you need to build a house. And you're like, what the fuck do I do with this? Right. So
nail, hammer into the wood.
Yeah. I mean, that's
come on. It's common sense. And you know what? Being a DM an effective DM is a skill. Some people, just like any other skill, some people are better at it naturally than others. But just like you have to learn how to ride a bike, you have to learn how to DM. And I learned how to DM by the books because I played one D&D session before I started playing D&D as a DM. And I was able to learn from the book. I was able to read Gary's Gygaxian English and get some idea of what was going on. But I think the assumption these days, Joe, when you GM'd or when you started playing D&D, did you have one player that was only the DM, or did you guys rotate? Maybe it depended on who was in the mood or what game you were going to play, or was it always one person DMing?
When I first started, it was in school, and we had time during whatever class, and I was a freshman in high school, and I didn't know jack shit, and I didn't have any books because I was broke, and so whoever had the books was the DM, right? And so they taught me, and they didn't know because they read the damn sample adventure in the book, and they thought that's how you do it or whatever, or they read the Red Box Menser thing, and they thought that's how you do it, and they played with one guy maybe, and then they ran with it. So They had a bunch of bad DMs teaching people how to be bad DMs, and like other people are saying, like Michael in there and Matt says, isn't that how he learned? Some asshole grabbed the book, walked to the end of the table, and proclaimed he was God. Roll with it. Yeah, that's what I did. I forbade my brother. Yeah, Matt Joe still doesn't know jack. I forbade my brother from reading DM guides so he wouldn't know the secrets of DMing, in a sense, so that I could spring stuff on him. He'd be surprised, but also I don't want him to come back at me and say, you can't do that. It's in fucking page 67 in the book. So you can't do that. So, yeah, exactly. How do we learn? That's how we learn. We learned by doing, and we fucked up and broke it. But with the advent of the internet, you didn't have to spend 10 years being a dickhead DM, right? You could talk to other people, figure out how it's done, especially for people who never went to conventions and everything else,
Maybe the assumption is that people are going to watch, Critical Role on YouTube.
Oh, Christ,
and learn how to. Well, again, it sets up these false expectations.
Yes.
The expectations.
That's the other side of the coin,
When I learned how to play in the early 80s, and I was the primary DM, but we did rotate, whether it was my Pennsylvania group or my New York group. In the New York group, I was the only quote D&D DM, but if it was other rule systems, others would step up and run. It was just that only Eric can run D&D the way we like it, whatever. But you had to learn it. But there was enough in the DMG examples of play given
examples
that
of play.
You could look at it and say, all right, I think I know where Gary's going with this. And I think, again, the assumption, listen, even when you buy something and you have to assemble it, half the time it's like, well, go to youtube.com/build my ass and watch the video of how to put this together.
Yeah.
And that's the part of the assumption. Do I learn better watching something than reading it? Probably.
Yeah.
But you're not saying in the DMG, listen, we put together a bunch of YouTube videos. Go to youtube.com, Woods of the Coast DMG, and you'll go to our channel and they should do that.
Yeah,
if that's the case. I mean, really, think about it. And I'm not advocating myself or Joe doing it because I have neither the technical knowledge nor the DM skills to do it.
No.
But somebody could make a good channel out there on YouTube or BitChute, one of the other hosting places, who would do some classes on how to be an effective DM for any edition. It doesn't have to be 5e. It could be any role-playing system. Just some of the techniques, the tools, what you need to know.
Yeah, how to use all the tools that the DM guide gives you. The DM guide talks about the tools in the toolbox, and it never shows you how to use them, nor how to use them on the components. And so I agree with David. The examples of play were absolutely critical. I still can go back and read some of that shit, like the DM guide. I bet you I could probably open the DM guide and find it within a second. Where that example of what's going on in there. It was absolutely important because that's how you figured out the goddamn game. This is what it looks like, the same style, looks like the same feel. And so when you read it yourself, you're just like, okay, I'm on the right track. This seems similar. And so you do your thing, right? So yeah, here I'm looking at it right on page fucking 97. Look how long did that take? All right. What are you going to do now? Light our torches and go down the steps. Fine. But you need the marching order you'll be in. At this point, the players either write down the names of the characters. So it goes through each thing the DM is saying, why the DM is saying it. And go and that's how a DM figures the goddamn thing out,
Right.
And so this is the key. This is teaching, right? And if you look at, I think it was Keep on the Borderlands, had a fantastic introduction by Gygax about how to do stuff like this. They tied it all together, which I think goes back to the why you don't see it now. Is because you look in the DM Guide 5th edition, you're not seeing how to put it together because same freaking reason the drug companies don't cure anything, they just treat it. Right? So they can sell fucking adventures, so you're going to buy this stupid ass adventure. That's, the adventure of the year, whether it's Dragon Heist or it's the Tyranny of Dragons one or the Against the Giants one or whatever the hell they're putting out this year. They get to sell it to you because why show a man how to the reverse of the Bible quote, right? I'm not going to catch a fish, or show a guy how to catch a fish and he can feed himself. They're not going to do that for us. They want you to rely upon them for the fish.
Which when you think about it, is a total reversal of the initial thoughts when Gygax and friends and company published the original D&D rules. Why weren't there adventures written for D&D and being published? Why were third-party companies like We Warriors, the first ones to publish adventures, because Gary figured, who'd want to buy somebody else's adventure? You want to write your own.
Yeah.
And the assumption today, and maybe it has to do with the idea that you're going to have as little time as possible to game prep, or maybe you have so much other prep. If you're like, I don't know, Matt Jackson, doing your VTT, fog of war, lighting on your map and all that stuff, it's going to take you. You got to prep that. So we're going to save you the time. You don't have to write your adventure. Come by our latest adventure path, and we'll have a campaign for you pre-written to get your characters from levels 1 through 20.
By the way, whoever had 32 minutes in on their bingo card for until we start busting Matt Jackson's balls, you win. So you're good to go.
We started about we weren't busting your balls. Actually, we were praising you. Before you came in. But once you came in, we had to switch it around because,
of course,
come on, Matt. What's love got to do with it? Everything.
So that's my brother and then Mike. He says, I read the DM guide behind your back. Yeah, you did, you little shit. But at least you couldn't say that you read it, because if the minute you said, hey, page 97, you can't do that, I would have known you're cheating and reading it, and I would have killed your guy.
Well, but that was part of the assumption even back then, is that the assumption as the books were written was that your group is going to have one designated DM.
Yep.
Right. And my experience, especially when I was gaming summers and weekends up in the Poconos, was that it rotated. We had a small group, a group of, I guess it was 4 of us, plus maybe whatever miscreants we could drag in.
Yeah.
And then it rotated, but we had such a small group that usually the DM also had one of their PCs in the adventuring party.
I did. That's what I had to do because they needed a wizard. It was like me and my brother played, and whatever random one friend we could get into, or my sister, whoever we could drag into the thing. And so he had a couple, I had 1 or 2, and so that was it. And so there's always, because you're fucking 16, you're shading the dice rolls as the DM, so your guy can live too. And next thing you know, you get those characters to get up to 25th level. Legitimately, I'm sure. Yeah.
Which is going to be touching upon another topic we're going to probably get to a little bit later, but I think we still got some more wheat to this that we can discuss here, because really, when you think about it today, when it comes to new DMs, when we started, the books were written. I'm not saying the white box, but the basic rules and the DMG were written to be a bit more instructional, and saying these are the rules, this is how you use them, kind of like, not, I don't say holding your hand, but I guess holding your hand on how to do it. And again, I played in one game session before I picked up the reins of DMing, and I think today the assumption is that, well, we want everybody to be a DM because then everybody's buying our books. Remember, only the DM needs anything more than the player's handbook or the Unearthed Arcana back in the day.
So who the hell can afford it? How many weeks of my paper route money it took to buy the fucking DM guide?
Yeah.
Jesus.
And now you look at it, and the more DMs you have in a given group, the more revenue you could probably generate. So why aren't they instructing people on how to be a better DM? I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, I think they count on probably so many examples of play on YouTube that they don't do it. It's a shame. And this because you're getting the Mercer effect. Then you're getting everybody looking at Matt Mercer and his stupid ass game. And I mean, it's enjoyable as entertainment, I guess, if you like that sort of thing.
Right.
But it's not fucking D&D how it's played around the table. It's no. I mean, the way we play around the table, depending on the group, it's a constant ball busting session with endless tangents. And oh, that reminds me of this movie and quotes from fucking, you know, Conan you're never really in character. You know what I mean? And these guys, you know, these guys on TV, I mean, shit, they're just always in character. They're method actors and they're voice actors and they're, you know, and you get invested in it like it's a reality TV show based on some other alternate reality. And that's not D&D. You know, D&D is sitting around with your buddies busting balls and hanging out and you know, role playing to me was what my character did, not what he said and how he said it. Right. And it's a different thing now. I mean, now it's like everybody expects if you're not playing a game like Matt Mercer's and then you're just not playing D&D right. I'm like, well, fuck you. You know, or that Acquisitions Incorporated shit, you know?
Right. Well, that's the expectation coming in. It's like, well, I expected my D&D game to be like that. And why isn't it like that? Because that's not reality. I hate to say it. It's like pornography. You know, it's like D&D. Listen, years ago, myself and Greg Christopher referred to Lamentations of Flame Princess, Weird Fantasy, original box set, as OSR porn because it has like penises and vaginas and shit like that.
Oh, the succubus. But, I mean, you know, that's first edition succubus did it for me quite. Let me just say.
But the thing is, when you look at stuff like Critical Role, you're looking at D&D porn because the expectations of your game being like that is never going to happen. And it takes away, you know, those of us that have been gaming for years or haven't been gaming for years but have learned how to game from other quote norms, like any of us are normals, but people that have come into the game because of Critical Role and the like, their expectations of what D&D is, they're never going to match that in our home game.
No, you know? I agree. It's really a shame because if you look at the other stuff that TSR, Jesus Christ, aging myself, Wizards of the Coast is putting out now. There was a big lag, I think, between Morning Canaan's whatever the hell it was called, and then you had a book about Acquisitions Incorporated, and then you had a book about which is I think that traveling show that they did every once in a while that lie at big conventions, and they would have celebrities come on and they run a game, and it was like a precursor almost to the Matt Mercer shit. And then they put out a book based on Ravnica, which is I guess their stupid Magic the Card game setting. And then they had a book based on Matt Mercer setting, and so they had like 3 publications, and then an Eberron book. Who the fuck cares about Eberron? That's the stupidest setting ever created by D&D, you know. But anyway, then so they had a huge gap and nothing, you know, and you would have thought they would have put out something more related to characters and players that they could use at the table, but no, they put out this bullshit, which just goes to show they're pandering to a certain fan base. You know, the people who watch the YouTube videos, you know, you're putting out, and people who play Magic the Gathering, so they're trying to bring that into it, right? So they it's like they're almost like creatively devoid of anything else they could do. Maybe they're trying to avoid the bloat of 3rd edition, so they're not going to put in more feats and more spells and more abilities and more this, that, and the other thing. But they're pandering to all these other groups of people who watch these YouTube videos. So they're so heavily invested in that scene that they're putting out books for it, for fuck's sake. You know, it's terrible. It's terrible.
That's the market they've made. By the way, do I sound better now? Because it was apparently my new computer setup was defaulting to my headset for my microphone, and now I'm back to my desktop mic.
Okay, I'm not hearing it now. Better?
Yeah, all right. So so now I got the professional mic working, not the microphone from my $100 Bluetooth headset. So God forbid that fucking shit works.
Okay. It's like it's gone. Yeah, so that's it's just a strange thing. I mean, and it goes back to they're not teaching DMing; they're just setting you up to buy more books from them, right? And so now did I hear somewhere they're going to put out 4 books a year or something? Before they were doing 1 book a year, it was generally an adventure, or it was adventure plus maybe a Morning Canaan's type book, which gave new monsters, players, options, things like that. But they haven't had a good monster book since the Monster Manual. They have monsters scattered throughout their other books, but they haven't put out a new monster book. Maybe since they had a little bit in Volos, but you know. Nothing, not like a Monster Manual 2 or a Fiend Folio. There's not been a book like that. I wonder why. There's plenty of them online. You could buy them off a DM's Guild, but there's never anything from Wizards of the Coast.
You have to remember, too, the DM's Guild is free money. for Wizards of the Coast.
True.
You know, they're getting what 20% of every sale in their pocket.
Yeah.
For doing nothing. You all are whoever's writing for the DMs Guild. Excuse me, or any other those community programs over on DriveThru. I'm not saying they are bad things. They certainly generate a lot of content for these game systems. But if you are a creator and you're creating under that license, you have issues, especially under the Wizards of the Coast license, because I believe, as Rob Conley pointed out to me one time, that anything that you create there, you cannot port out. So if you create something under the D&D community rules, you can't say, "Oh, well, I also want to put out a version for Swords and Wizardry."
No shit.
No, you're fucked.
No shit.
Yep.
Interesting. I didn't know that. So yeah, you're just limiting it to them. So if they're making money off of other people's creation on the DMs Guild, then why should they put out their own thing? They got enough idiots putting out, 100 monsters in a new book and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So they're going to put out stuff to gain new audience people, but not put out stuff to appease the current audience who was actually playing, Yeah. No, that makes sense. Hey, Matt, we're going to do a shout out to you right now. Do you want to join? You're pretty talkative today. You seem like you're in a good mood. You're not as cranky as usual. So you're all hearing it. We're throwing out an invite to Matt Jackson. Do you want to join us? Anybody out there who wants Matt Jackson to join the live chat? Say yes.
Ooh. Sorry,
say yes,
Katie.
Matt.
He's like, what the fuck?
We just put him on the spot. All right.
He's like, I'm gonna send Matt an invite.
I'm gonna send him. I gotta go find the freaking link, Eric. And
well, you know what?
Now
he might have to put his pants on.
He has to put a shirt on at least, for fuck's sake. I mean, we don't need that goddamn sight, Yeah, no tighty whities, Matt. All right.
Yeah, at least boxer briefs, man. You just gotta go through that step.
Yeah. All right, Matt.
No.
You don't have the invite. No, you're in. Come on, Ivy. Get him to do it. Matt, you now have the link. So if Matt doesn't join, he's being a damn party pooper, guys. He now has the link. All he has to do is click on it, and he's in. He's never gonna join their fucking live chat again if we're gonna keep inviting him, though. Actually, we're doing. He's running a game with us, and it's really been going pretty good. He killed my guy again, motherfucker. But that's right.
Again?
Again. That's my third. He's my third guy.
Is it because that you keep on naming your characters?
No, this was just a regular dude. I named my other guy in Tim's game, Snickle the gnome. Yeah. But no, this is a regular dude. But anyway, he's we've been playing. It's been like an adventure of the week kind of thing. But now he's starting to develop his world out. So he's getting like a campaign going, which is really cool, And so he took it a setting he got from somewhere, and he's expanding upon it, and he's getting a campaign going. And I hope, as he's drawn map upon map, and this is like, it goes back to what I was saying before about having something, me at least, having something in front of me to do in order to produce something for it. I can't produce in a vacuum. Matt usually is able to produce in a vacuum, and he does, but now he's putting out a lot more shit because he looking at his posts in the game group, and there's like 2-3 maps there's today that he's put out, so it's kind of cool. So now we're getting into more characters, more background, and it's like that tavern he went to, it's like now it has a name. You know what I mean? That kind of shit. And now it's the bartender named Bill or something. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to it. I hope he fucking publishes this thing. He might have to take some license the other guy's thing, or I don't know, whatever, but I hope he fucking publishes this shit. And puts it out there at some point as he develops more and more of it, because God knows he's putting out maps that are great maps of it, so it'd be pretty cool.
Maps Maps are magnificent. I was gonna say they were awesome, but I can get the 3 M's stuck in there, and it becomes even better, right?
Oh man, my brother's like, oh, if he doesn't, I will. I'm 4 pints in. Then he'll get all the bad stories about how it was a shit DM. My brother's, I think, is out in front of a fire pit right now doing his thing.
Jeez.
Right. Yeah. So I think he's in front of the fire. I think he's in front of a fire pit. Yeah, invite me, bitch. It's time for a hijack. Yeah.
Matt, give me a minute. Jeez.
All right, yeah. He's coming in.
Or he's tapping his bladder ahead of time.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second, Eric. Hold on 1 second.
Dun dun dun. Silence strikes the show. So one of the topics that once we break away from the what is D&D in this 5e era, I came across something reading through the 1e DMG earlier this week, and I've touched on it on the podcast. I figured it's something that would be interesting for the live stream. And this is Appendix P. Now, if you're like many people like me, old school gamers who think they know the DMG by heart, you probably don't know it by heart. Because I somehow missed the Appendix P, creating a party on the spur of the moment. And here's what struck out to me is this following paragraph. Levels. For low level, you might use random dice to find out if players are levels 1 to 2, 1 to 3, or 2 to 4. Medium range might be 5 to 7, 5 to 8, or 7 to 9. Upper range is typically 8 to 10, 8 to 11, or 9 to 12. So, if that's the case, if upper range is 9 to 12, then why does the Player's Handbook have experience charts going up to level 20, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, and that is an interesting thing because I've always, again, figured, level 20 was the goal, right? Your goal when we initially played was, I want to get the name level because I want to get these followers and get my stronghold or my tower or my church, and I want to get my soldiers. Why you wanted fucking soldiers, I don't know, but it just makes it feel important. And then it was like to reach level 20, or if you're a magic user, reach level 18, because you wanted that 9th level wish spell. But here's the reality is, our games never reached that long. You hit name level, and my legitimate characters that hit name level, that's as far as you got. My Ranger, Megan Brain hit level 10. That was it. You hit that pinnacle, you got your 2d12 followers, and you started pulling those out of adventure, because I found as a GM or a DM, as a high-level adventures were just so hard to balance. And even once you pulled off the shelf, even ones that were published by Wizards of the Coast, necessarily weren't balanced to your party. There was no book on how to write high-level adventures. That's for sure. So that was, it's like, because when I did Swords and Wizardry Continual Light with James Spahn, and we pitched the idea to Bill Webb, we were thinking max it at level 6, so 3rd level spells, and you get 2 of them. And he was like, no, level 7, because 4th level is really where you start pushing it without going over the edge. 4th level spells, and I think he's right. The 5th level is where you get 5th level spells. You get Raised Dead. You get these things that are campaign changing in their abilities, and once you get to that level, the balance gets a bit wacky. Now, Michael is saying he goes in first edition. There's plenty of stuff to do at high levels. There certainly is, but even when you look at Gary's campaigns, when you look at characters like Tensor and Mordecai and all that stuff, they were pretty much retired as day-to-day PCs.
Yeah.
They were background characters for same game world.
Yeah.
And the players could interact with them. And they could get taken out of mothball if you had an adventure.
Yeah.
But they weren't your daily adventure. They weren't your weekly party anymore.
Well, they were the Elminster of their time, right? Even if you look at the Temple of Elemental Evil, you had Bernie and Rufus, who were retired at 8th and 7th level, wherever the hell it was, and would never really venture unless it was really the end game of the whole Temple adventure. So yeah, that's how they did it. But I never had a problem with the high level game, and we played a lot of the high level shit because we loved we're munchkins. I don't know, we like being high level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I have a 20th level paladin and 18th level magic user, but they weren't done with legitimate experience points. These were done by one adventure, one level.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's the difference, I think, is that it took I mean, even illegitimate characters who got to high
it took
levels
forever.
because, it took forever. It took years to get there. Now the adventures today, because of instant gratification and whiners and, the whole, wimpy generation, of whatever we have today, but they go, and then if you don't level up fast enough, we've been playing 3 adventures and I'm still first level. Really? You played 7, they got halfway through back in the day. What are you talking about?
Yeah, pretty much.
I actually had somebody say that to me. You know what I mean? Because I was doing a higher XP game. I started playing 5th edition at a library and had these kids. They're all kids. They're all in the young 20s. And, I had not played 5th edition. I've been playing D&D forever, and they had just started in D&D with 5th edition. And so I'm running this shit, and I said, we're going to do it a little bit different. Me and house rules. I'm house ruling the fuck out of it because I didn't like so much of it. And I was really experimenting back then. And I brought over a D&D advancement. I had, I basically used the fighter table, and I put in treasure for XP and,
right.
The gold and this and that. And they were like so annoyed that they couldn't freaking level up it, and I'm like, I figured every 6 or 7 you're going to level. But no, they were just annoyed that it wasn't instant, especially now that they put in their adventures themselves, each chapter, like that dragon adventure they had. What the hell was it called? I'm looking over at the shelf. Horde of the Dragon Queen and the Rise of Tiamat.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That was the first one they put out just after, the edition came out. And they were supposed to be like, there's a chapter, and each chapter was supposed to be a session or 2. And after each chapter, you leveled up until by the time you got to the end, boom, there you are. You're high level. No, we got someone joining here. Who do we have here?
It looks like someone coming from the gates of hell.
Okay.
I can see the red glow.
Oh,
it's got to be your brother out by the fire.
I hacked my way in.
Yep, I sent him the link. All right, so I don't see a fire. I don't see anything actually. Oh, there you go. Yeah, have the fire. Show the fire the whole time. We don't want to see you. I can't see you anyway. Yeah, show the fire. We got that whole mellow kind of vibe going there. That's where we usually do the Joe and Bro Fire Pit show, and hopefully. Where we live here, I could get my vaccine, my first shot, March 22nd, and God knows I'm gonna. Yeah, not yet, but that's the date that they're bringing it out. Hey, hold that thing! You're gonna give us those like seizures, like in the Japanese movies. If we don't hold that damn thing still, but the fire is zipping across the screen like that.
I'm just gonna aim it on me so I can see. Otherwise,
it's
kind of
see.
weird. I'm talking to my phone.
That's fine.
Yeah. So anyway, we're able to get the vaccine, and I think that once we all get our vaccines, he's in the same age category as me, we can start doing the fire pit show again, and so that'd be cool, and we get out there and do that again. We've just been reluctant to do it. We did, I think, one in August over the summer because the infection rate here in the state was so low, and we still kept our distance and all that, but it's just not worth the risk. I'm old, I'm fat, I got high blood pressure. What the hell means that shit?
Dude, believe me, I hit 4 comorbidities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, me and my brother, we played. Our guys weren't legit, of course. I mean, how many times we rolled for psionics?
Oh, you guys did that shit too? It's like, that didn't count.
Yeah, do it again. Do it again. It looked like it landed on the paper halfway off. Roll again, that kind of shit.
They were legit up until we got to a certain level when we decided they were no longer legit.
Yeah. Then we just wanted to get high and play the cool games, and they had some good adventures. I mean, we played that. What was it? The Morning Canaan's Isle of the Ape? What was that called?
Isle of the Ape. That might have been the highest level that we did. Lich Lords. Remember that one? That was
that was the Mayfair Games one. Lich Lords. You had to kill like 7 liches. That was fun. Fun. There was like 1 million copper pieces. I remember reading 1 million copper pieces. We're like, get the portable hole out.
You gave us we looted a portable hole the adventure before that one, and I was always convinced you just threw that in there because you knew we were getting a gazillion copper pieces in the next adventure.
I like to plan ahead. I mean, even copper pieces, who gives a shit, right? How much gold is that, right? 10,000, but hey, it was still 1 million coins.
1 million, though, it adds up.
Yeah. So we did that, and then what was the other one? Oh, the Bloodstone one was high level, right? Remember that?
That was
Bloodstone
good.
Pass.
Yeah.
There was like I think 3 or 4 of them. There was Bloodstone Pass, the Mines of Bloodstone Pass. Mm-hmm. Then there was one when it go into Orcus's lair in his whatever level of the abyss he was in. They had skeletons manning cannons that shot lightning bolts. That was
half a mile away or something. Yeah, it was, and it's like D100 or something. Yeah, it was insane.
It was
insane. It was fantastic though. And then you were in a gladiator ring, and Orcus is playing and all that, and you had to steal a scepter or something. It was fun.
Orcus's wand, yeah.
Yeah. That's right. Oh, there he is. There's Matt. Matt, we have a crossover event. I play with my brother and a bunch of guys, and I play with Matt and a bunch of guys, and never have the twain have met. So Matt, my brother Mike, Matt.
Hello there,
Mike. How you doing?
I've heard stories of your maps.
Yeah. I haven't bitched about how he kills us.
I do not. Players kill themselves. I just afford you the opportunity to commit suicide, and you guys graciously comply.
Yeah,
are you the dungeon master that kills Joey with flowers?
No, that's Tim.
No, that's Tim.
Yeah. So, and by the way, he calls me Joey. It's the family name, and we call each other Geek. So if you hear that, that's our nickname. We slip out.
And if I say something offensive, just
don't
ignore
because
it.
we don't
they
want
have
Eric.
me on. It's sure to happen.
Yeah, but watch the watch your talk.
I've been canceled before. It wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, but we don't want to get canceled. And I still got a job to keep.
Listen, how many cancellation attempts have been made against me?
Yeah,
it's just like, all right, keep it going, keep it going.
I made a comment earlier that Joey got canceled by EN World before canceling was even a thing. He's a trendsetter.
Matt, why are you moving your camera down, Matt? Are you trying to show us your underwear? What did you just do that for? Oh, you're muted, Matt. You're muted.
I was adjusting it so I wasn't just a talking head. So.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, as long as you're not a talking penis, we're happy. If you were talking penis.
Well, I did have one comment I wanted to make about you guys before I joined. You two sound like some old freaking neckbeard grognards bitching about the little millennials and their games aren't games. They're not playing D&D right. I mean, I'm with you, but
yeah. Get off my lawn, damn kids with your old D20s.
For the visually impaired or those who are listening on the podcast, Matt would be what you would expect from a neckbeard. He's got, but his beard doesn't cover the neck. It just, not yet. Not yet. He's just got the poof.
It's almost ZZ Top like. I mean, look at that thing.
Well, I told somebody today. I don't know if I've told this, but I'm not shaving until December 9th.
Nice.
This year, because that's a magical date for me. But anyway,
all right,
I'm growing it, and the barber that I go to, which I think I talked about the last time I was on, when I was there last week, he was telling me that he just shaved a guy's beard that was down to his belt and he donated to like a charity or something for like kids with cancer.
Okay.
So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let it grow as long. I don't know how long I can get in a year, because this is the last time I shaved was the morning of December 9th. So this is where I'm at for that.
Oh,
so
okay.
Nice.
They say it's like a ½ inch a month, so that could be almost Gandalf level by then.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
Yeah,
my wife would be so pissed.
Oh yeah. I got the long hair going. I haven't cut my hair in like 3 years, and I gotta say it's getting long even for my standards. I mean, it's like down to I could wrap it around my neck.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty freaking.
Dude, wait. Have you put it in a man bun though?
No man bun, just a 1970 style ponytail. That's it.
Ponytail looks normal, but then when he takes it out, he looks like 1979 era Andre the Giant. It just kind of it's awesome.
I've done the COVID compromise. It was like, all right, Ma, you haven't cut my hair since I was 16. Let's do it. So I've done that 3 times. It's just like,
with your mother, you mean? Yeah. You should get the bowl. Okay. No, you don't have enough there to get the bowl.
No,
half a bowl.
She does it freehand, and she's not bad at it. But it's bad when you get hospitalized, and in the hospital they're going, you need a haircut.
Yeah.
You haven't seen worse people than me. That's like,
because Matt likes the low level games. He doesn't like to get high level, and me and my brother love the high level games. The low level games are kind of in the way to get the high level, right? Because we like the larger play. Why do you like the low level games, Matt? And do you think that opinion might change once your setting develops and you make it more of a campaign? See what I'm saying? Low games are good for one-off dungeon crawls, and high level ones aren't. But as you get a campaign going in a world, in a region, and you get, you think it might change.
Well, I can tell you my gaming history has been spotty since about high school.
I
mean, I've ran short little campaigns here and there, but really the last, I think I said it in our game Thursday, we've had 20 sessions of this campaign, and I think that's the longest like continual one campaign that I've ran probably since high school.
Yeah.
And to kind of answer that, the last campaign that I ran ended up everybody was between 7th and 9th level, and that would have been AD&D.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I don't know if you consider that high level. For me, that was like, holy crap, they're like God level. They were fighting a demon and that kind of thing. So
yeah,
I don't know. I like low level, I think, because it's easier for me to plan. When you guys can start raising castles and demolishing a town in seconds, then kind of, especially some of the crazy people we have in our group.
Yeah.
The cards are off the table. It's just like chaos.
Yeah, the game balance. The game gets more and more unbalanced as you go up in levels, and it's not just because your players get more powerful. Their adversaries get more powerful, and if you play the adversary smart, you are going to have a TPK, guaranteed. Maybe not right away, but somebody is going to have the dice not in their favor, and all of a sudden, power word kill against one of the PCs. Somebody's going to be pissed off that a failed saving throw resulted in instant death, and then it's going to get worse from there. And so there's that fine piece. I think high-level play works best as one-shot convention play. When we played in G1 with you years ago, Joe, when you ran it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember that, yeah. That went real fast, too, if I remember right, yeah.
But think about what you just said, though, and I agree. It could – I worry more in the high-level game, not so much about a power word kill, because what is it, 100 –
Well, 5th edition. We're playing 5th edition for
high-level. Oh, no, power word kill in AD&D, if you fail, you're dead.
Okay, and that's fine. But in third level – or at low levels, one critical can do the same thing, right? So you can get one shot at any point in any level of the game. I don't know. I don't play with criticals because criticals fuck the PCs more than they do the monsters. Yeah. Criticals are no pun intended.
What, Matt, you okay? Wait, give away a secret?
Do you have fumbles?
Oh yeah.
No.
No, man, that is the best part of the game.
No.
When your hero accidentally rolls a 1, which we've all gamed with Tim, so that happens all the time.
All the time.
And he decapitates his hireling, or wait, what was the last one when he set his hireling on fire?
He blew him up because the hireling had he rolled a 1 while throwing a flaming oil, and he rolled so badly, hit a 1, and then I think was it somebody, Matt? I think did you do it or somebody? He ended up hitting his own guy, and he blew him up. There was nothing left but an oil spot on the ground.
I always feel like that interjects. Go ahead.
No, it
certainly could.
So much that we actually created a whole sub rule set around.
Oh yeah.
Criticals and fumbles for every type of spell, whether it's a saving throw spell, an attack roll spell, and what happens if you roll a 1 on the save or a 20 on the attack. We've got probably 2 pages.
Time out. You're doing this with Joe. Joe, the person who, when he played the DCC fucking RPG, was like, I can't handle being a spellcaster because these spells are just too fucking randomized, and I don't know where they're gonna. Now you want critical tables for your spells?
Oh, we have it. Yeah, but
fucking god!
But a fumble is one thing. A fumble, that's a whole different story. A fumble only happens once in a while. In DCC, you cast a fucking spell, it can hit you in a ball sack, and not even for no reason.
And, and that's part of the almost like the default setting, and that's fine. Again, have I played with criticals and fumbles? Sure. Have they ever? I don't even know about 5e, but I know that for AD&D and 2e, they weren't part of the core rule set. Everybody house ruled it in.
Oh yeah.
And really, since monsters are one and done, those criticals against the players, having run Rollmaster and MERP back in the day and Space Master, great games, a lot of fun. But man, those criticals, if you took the criticals as rolled against the PCs, those would have been very short game sessions, let alone campaigns.
Rollmaster actually get into detail like slash hamstring.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, that was nuts. I mean, when you're talking about that for Rollmaster, we only did it for MERPs. That's the only thing we really played. You know what I mean? But yeah, Rollmaster was insane with that shit. You know? Yeah, it was. What? Right, lost Matt.
So I got Matt back. I said Tim said, and I quote, "Playing at Eric's game, he hands you a seatbelt and some cupcakes." End of quote. Listen, I have killed PCs off at convention games. I killed PCs off in campaigns. It happened. But I'm not going to kill them off with a critical, which again tears down the players a lot faster. It's going to tear down your NPCs. And
I don't mind that. I don't mind tearing down the players.
I know. Again, you have to remember, I'm somebody who did statistics as a cop for like 2.5 years of my career. So I hate doing odds and shit like that, but it comes up automatically in my head. So yeah.
I do want to correct you, Joey. Yeah, I enjoy high level play, but we've both learned to enjoy scrounging for a few gold pieces at the beginning just to afford a room in an inn. Like,
oh yeah.
Like, oh man, the smoke's getting to me now. It's just everywhere I move, the smoke blows that way. There's nothing better than starting off low and not having any money.
Yeah.
And you need to adventure just to afford the room in the inn, like
and then you get to shop. I know Matt loves shopping. When you're shopping in his game, that's the highlight of his game is going on shopping trips.
Every session. I strive for it, man. I think about it all week.
He hates it because you know how I am. I'm going to go buy shit, man. We are back to town. We got our stuff. I'm going to buy the goddamn shit I could buy. And that means Matt has to make up something.
But see, Joe was infamous for his shopping sessions. I think you don't shop enough in real life.
Amazon.
It's not just the shopping; it's the meticulous note taking on equipment.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many times in the game somebody will be like Shane will be, didn't I get like a wand? Couple cents. Hold on a second. Joe's flipping through his papers. Yeah, you got that in the cave with the ogre, and Matt said it does like an ice blast or something. And
then Matt's like, "What? I made that up. Where?"
Yeah, I make up the magic items all the time. I never use any stock ones. I have to take notes in Roll20, and it's usually what dungeon and what room. I'll say, "Where did you get that?" And I'll have to switch back to that map on Roll20 and go, "Oh, there's my note." Okay.
He's actually told me. He told me to write it down like that. Write down the wand that he got in the dungeon and the thing with the whatever. And that way there's a reference for him.
That way I have a reference to where I actually put my notes because I'm not going to keep track of it. And I don't like to tell the players, "Hey, you got a sword +1." That's boring to me. I like to, and then you have like people that just got to grab that magic item and start using it. And then when you curse them, it feels so good as a DM to know that you're fucking the player constantly every time they use it. Yeah.
Vance in our game. Vance, you listening? We're busting your balls now because he got a fucking dagger. He picked it up like a fool. He picked up the damn thing. You don't pick it up with your bare hand ever. You pick nothing up with your bare hand in Matt's game. You're an idiot if you do. So Vance goes, of course, and picks it up. And now he's got a dagger that always has to be used. And it's a cursed dagger. And Vance tries to use a sword, doesn't work. He tries to put a dagger down and draw a sword and draw a bow, doesn't work. The dagger goes back into his hand. He throws a dagger at the creature, the dagger's back in his hand, doesn't work. And then he throws a troll at us.
Well, at least he can't lose it. I mean, I guess
that's true.
Yeah, I mean, he'll never be without a weapon.
Yeah,
but I felt bad, so I was nice. Even though they tell you I'm a horrible, mean DM, I think, 4 sessions later, I allowed him to, yes, Mickey, I allowed him to undo the curse because actually, and I will say this, it was only because his wife was nice and followed the little breadcrumbs that I dropped for you guys to save the monk. So.
Yeah, we don't follow breadcrumbs unless they're edible. That's really it. That's... that's it. Oh, there he is.
Oh, look at the doggy.
Hey. Yeah.
That's Mickey. He makes an appearance every game session. So I thought, now you're permanent on YouTube.
There you go. He's a star.
There you go.
Actually, he's crying because I have Girl Scout cookies.
Oh, well, I've been crying too.
He loves this kind of. Yeah, he needs a Girl Scout cookies.
That time of year.
Hell yeah, man! I got to find some.
I've got 8 boxes waiting with a friend who I haven't seen in a while.
Really? Order me some, would you? Whoever the hell it is, order me a few. You know me, Thin Mints and Samoas.
We'll make a trade next time I see you.
Yeah, I got some stuff. All right, cool.
So can we get back right before this was hijacked? You guys are talking about, which was like a long time ago. It seems like you guys are talking about how the new DM guide doesn't really teach DMing.
Yeah,
and my first thought was I disagree 100%. And then you started talking about how I forgot how much the old DM guide actually taught that. Yeah. I honestly forgot the first edition. That being said, it does teach you some basics of what to say and when to say it, but it doesn't really teach you how to DM. Like you didn't read that book and all of a sudden become a good DM because there's a million other things to overcome.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, and on that, did anybody read the actual DMG and understand what they read? I was in high school when I read it, and I was like, we'll do it this way. It kind of sounds right.
All right. Well, that's a lot of the Gygaxian stuff back then.
Yeah.
But here's the thing when it comes to the 5e DMG, and I guess it kind of touches on what Joe was saying. They're giving you the tools, but they're not showing you how to use the tools. They're not giving you the examples. They're telling you how to run an adventure with box text, but they're not telling you how to make your own adventure. You know, they're showing you this is how you take a fish and you skin it, and they're not giving you the instruction on how do you catch the fish in the first place.
Yeah.
But you're working on the assumption that you are going to be using somebody else's adventure, whether it's theirs or the DM's guild, because that's what, I hate to say it, that's what makes them, you running your own shit doesn't make them money.
Yeah. I completely agree. And then if I wanted to disagree with you 45 minutes ago when you said it, but now when I think about it, that theory is substantiated by the fact that not almost every adventure they've put out, other than Tales from the Awning Portal, which of course was old school adventures, was a railroad.
Yeah.
Every adventure is a railroad. And so if you make every adventure railroad, you don't really need to know a lot of stuff about DMing because it's almost like just making you tell a story that's presupposed. Of course, you know, when Joey and I DM, we take the modules, like this is in 5e, we take them and chop them up for content, wrap it into our own stories, and then roll with it. So we take bits and pieces. I think I did, you know, what was that, Dragon Heist? I might have used 30% of it, right?
Yeah.
And then I wrapped it into my own campaign, which of course is a subset of Joey's campaign. But you're right. They don't really teach much because the adventures, I think they try to do it within the modules, which is kind of weird. But I guess they're catering to the generation that's playing the game nowadays.
Right. They're not going to use something open-ended like B2 or Halls of Evingstar or what was it, N1, the zero level adventure back in the AD&D days, because that requires not just giving you tools, that requires giving you instructions kind of on how to use those tools.
Yeah.
But and it teaches you how to improvise and how to create. I mean, B2 is kind of like, hey, there's a lot of shit here, and we couldn't put it all in, so it's up to you to flesh it out.
Yeah.
Whereas everything you buy today is we're giving you all the shit you need, and if you need something else, you're doing it wrong.
Well, the other thing, don't forget, the other critical piece is that the adventures that they put out in the books, the Adventures Railroad of the Year, is also the same thing they use for those D&D Encounters games that they have in the game stores and the conventions, right? And so they have this whole system of take your character and run it in any D&D Encounters, and they're supposed to be regimented and the same, and you do the same thing no matter what you play in. The DM is supposed to run it this way, and there's no DM, ability to change shit around, and you can only use certain books and blah, 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 blah. And so they have to be conducive to two audiences. They have to be conducive to the person who's running it at home or, with his friends or in the game store. And they bow down to the game store people because I guess they figured that's where the most money is, because it also supports game stores too, which is a good thing, but just in the wrong way. Right. And so these adventures that they're running are broken up into parts for the game store players, right? And for the D&D Encounters thing. And that's not good. That's a straight up railroad. And so when I ran the game for those library kids in the young 20s, they had only started with the Encounters thing in a game store. And I'm running a campaign and they're not understanding what a sandbox is. They thought that every single thing I said must be a hook they must follow. Everything. I was like, what are you doing?
That's why they got arrested in sewage.
Yeah.
Because they didn't understand that everything wasn't an encounter.
Not everything's an encounter to deal with. Yeah. What was that, Matt?
Well, I was going to say, so it's like my game. When I go, hey, the guy in the bar says he heard of this dungeon up north of town. I mean, my guys are like, warp 10 north. I mean,
yeah. I mean, these guys thought there was no other option. Matt, if we all said, "Yeah, we're not going to do that. We're going to go and blah blah blah," you'd run with it. You roll with it, and you could do it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But it's because you have.
But some of that isn't. I don't know. I mean, we have decades. I mean, literally, I played the first time in 1982, I think. Mm-hmm. Or it might have been 83. Whenever the red box came out, I got it the following February for my birthday. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I've got decades, multiple systems, different editions. Yeah. Being able to roll with it. I sometimes I think it's like a natural ability, and sometimes I think it's a learned ability. But actually, one thing I wanted to ask you while you were talking about this, do you think today's situation in gaming, and not just talking about like YouTube and everything, but just the hobby as a book that you can go buy at a store, do you think it's vastly different than it is today than it was when we were kids? Because I know when I was a kid, I got the red box for Christmas or my birthday, and I played that for probably 2 years, I think. And then I managed to save up enough money on my newspaper route to go buy the player's handbook. Yep. And that was all we had. Yep. And then I think I might have gotten the Monster Manual next, and then the DMG. So it was like this hodgepodge. We kind of played this basic AD&D mix of stuff because, like I said, we didn't understand some of the Gygaxian crap rules that were in the books.
Yeah, yeah.
But do you think that it's different now? Because, I mean, I don't know about you, but the amount of money that a book cost in 1985 of my disposable income as a teenager compared to today, where I can get, I think, the player's handbook for like $19 on Amazon.
Yeah.
Some ridiculous amount, yeah.
Yeah, kids' ratio of ability to be able to purchase that, I think, it's a lot more accessible than it was probably. Because, I mean, not only that, but if you were like me, I was lucky my mom wasn't like, oh, that's satanic, but my grandmother was. I wasn't allowed to have my D&D books in her house. And I used to sneak them in and she'd get mad. But you kind of had that whole, you don't have that today where people are like, oh my God, we're going to start sacrificing our kid,
I mean, that just made it cooler. If that's the shit that, hey, I'm going to play that game now.
But do you think that affected how we learned how to play? Because being only able to get your hands on 1 or 2 books versus like Joe, who has 300 terabytes of gaming PDFs. And I mean, I'm sure you're not the only one. I'm sure there's some new kid out there that's like 15 that's like, I want to play D&D. I'll go to the Trove and I want that book, that book. And he's got 15 books.
Yeah,
you get a plethora of options. I mean, when I'm like you, by the way, my mother was great. My parents got me for my birthday the player's handbook, the DMG, and a nice set of dice, but I didn't have the Monster Manual. So, the DMG has that back section, one of the appendixes, it's all the monsters and their damage and their AC, but and even a hit dice, but it doesn't explain what hit dice is. Mm-hmm. So I thought 4 + 1 hit dice was 5 hit points, and why they hit me a +1? I have no fucking clue.
Yeah, that'd be a hell of a way to play.
So that first summer,
you're giving that
idea. Killing Asmodeus at third level.
My players were just crushing the adventures. So then I think I got money at Christmas time, and what I got with that money was I got the Fiend Folio. And when I got the Fiend Folio,
it's great.
I was like, oh shit, hit dice. That's a D8. Oh my fucking God. So these guys that were going, I love
there
that.
It is.
There you go. There it is.
These guys that
was in that
were just blasting through everything. All of a sudden, we're no longer blasting through.
Yeah.
Jill, if this is your book, I have it now.
What is it?
It's got a name on it. Jill, I got it off eBay at some point. So I don't know. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was like, that's a weird labeling on that book there. Fiend Folio. What? Jill. Yeah, I have an extra player's handbook that has somebody's name scratched on the inside. Somebody was selling their stuff on Craigslist, the whole gaming collection for like $200. And this must be about six years ago.
I remember that we were playing the game, and I was looking on Craigslist and said, "Eric, if you don't get this, I'm gonna," because it was near your house. It was down in Long Island.
It was actually it was Queens, but on the border of Long Island, Nassau County. And I went and met the guy, and he brought the stuff out of the house, and he had these two longish boxes. And I mean, I felt for him so badly. He's like, "Yeah, my wife wants me to get rid of it. Says I don't play it anymore. I'd like to play it." I even said, "Hey, I run games online. You're welcome to join us." He goes, "I think I'll just get more and more trouble."
All right, I'm gonna break with tradition here. I'm gonna turn my fucking camera on to show you something.
All
right. There it is.
Your ponytail real quick.
Look at that. Not actually seeing me. They're gonna see my shit though.
Oh, is that the broken red box?
There it is. Remember how many times we had this in a fucking book bag or something and brought it on vacation to our grandmother's house?
One from when you were a kid?
1984, man. I have everything from when I was.
That's awesome.
Look at this. Look at this thing. This thing has been beaten and used and abused. This is the shit. This is the shit right here.
We used to have. Do you still have the masking tape on the inside of the corners?
Yeah, no, look, it's like 30 layers of it on this. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Look at that shit. You just keep taping it up and taping it up.
Yep.
I got something else. All right, I'll put that down for a second.
I won't talk about how my guy in Redbox died to 11 beers at the same time.
That was a different guy. But I was digging through all my shit, and look at this.
Your camera's not aimed at it.
There's my first character ever. Glade the Cleric, neutral, level 1. My first ever character. And then, of course, I had Gandalf.
Can you still read the numbers and everything you wrote in?
Yeah. Well, my handwriting was better back then. I can't read my handwriting for shit. Now we had Gandalf, of course. Gandalf, the fucking magic user. And then here's your guy, MD. Legolas with your shitty-ass handwriting. All right?
That wasn't my first character, though.
No, it's one of them. Gareth, the fighter here.
Yeah.
Level 1. And, of course, this all comes from Palace of the Silver Princess module, which came in the box set.
Great.
There it is.
First AD&D adventure we played.
Yeah. First adventure, I think, because we got it with the red. I think we got it with the red box.
And we did Rahaja after that.
Oh yeah. So that's I broke my uncamera. I'm turning it off now. I broke the tradition there, and you have to see some of the collection. But yeah, that's the shit, man. That's awesome. The memories. I found this. I was digging through stuff. I had a bookcase collapse, and I found this, and I'm looking. I'm like, holy shit! Look at this. You know.
Wow, that's cool. I ended up getting rid of mine. I had
heresy.
It was right after Alternity came out because I was so excited about a science fiction one and it sucked. And I think it would have been when I was in Colorado. So my second daughter had been born, and I had decided that, I did I'm sure a lot of people do this. I'm a grown up now. I got to put away those kiddie things.
No, I never did.
I sold them in a garage sale for probably like $1 a book or some stupid shit. Yeah.
I don't
cry
know
about that.
A positive thing or a negative thing, but I've never decided I was a grown up and I had to get rid of shit.
No, fuck that. I've been trying to stay young forever.
I gotta say, I got rid of what was it, second edition spell books, and the magic item books. When I was making room for my son after his mother passed, I had to clean out the old bedroom. Yeah. And I was just like, fuck it, and just throw it. I mean, literally, just throw that shit out. And then, years later, I went, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Never told that I regret is my Star Wars action figures because I couldn't afford my college textbook. So I sold my Star Wars action figures to pay for those. That was in sophomore year of college. I never sold D&D shit.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't let you sell D&D shit.
I had every X-Men comic book from when the new X-Men, I think it was like 75, I think was the number or something, like Wolverine and all those first appeared. Right. I had X-Men from that to 150 or 200 or something. And I was in college, starving, and I had to make a car payment, and I sold all of them to a guy for $200.
That's terrible.
It was $200 or $300. Yeah. And I'm sure they're worth ass loads now. Yeah. Stupid thing to do. But I mean, I spent all my money on beer and I had to pay for the car to get
right. You have priorities,
priorities.
So my first character, and I have the character sheet somewhere still, was Cyrus, and he was named after Cyrus Vance, the Secretary of State. I don't know why the fuck I was like, Cyrus sounds like a fighter's name.
How old were you that you even knew who the Secretary of State was?
Yeah, I mean,
you know.
Did you like read the paper or something? I mean, I would. They'd be like, "Who's the president?" I'd be like, "I think it's a movie star."
Oh no,
I mean,
no. Listen, we had at the time. I think we only had the one TV set. So, if you were gonna watch TV, you sat your fucking ass down. You watched the evening news. I remember some of the earlier. Well, I guess it'd be the later Vietnam updates on the news, and if you fucking talk during the Waltons,
you're old.
You could get your ass kicked if you talk during the Waltons. The Waltons was like a religious experience for my mother. Don't you fucking talk during the Waltons.
No comment. I can relate to that.
Save it for the commercial, and then shut the fuck up when John Boy's back on the screen.
John Boy.
Good night, John Boy.
Yeah.
Good night, Mary Ellen.
Oh God!
I'm convinced if my parents had any idea of how to do streaming, they'd find the Waltons somewhere and watch that every day.
I'll tell you what, when shit was going bad, and when you want something peaceful and happy, I put the fucking Waltons on. I found it. I put it on just because it's one of those shows that when you're having a shit day, it's like everything is nice in their world.
You know what?
Even their crazies are nice. You know what I mean?
It gives you faith in humanity. That and Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah.
You know why?
Wow.
They'd all wear masks.
You guys watch terrible TV.
But you know what?
I watch
Little House on the
Gilligan's
Prairie.
Island and the Dukes of Hazzard, man. That
They
was
were
my
great.
I'm
shit.
all over that too.
Yeah.
Little House on the Prairie was good until like the last season, and then the last season was all fucking drama shit. That was like, all right, wait a second, so and so's blind. They've adopted this pauper. What the fuck is going on right now?
It almost became reality TV.
Yeah. It was no longer. It's a Little House on the Prairie. It's like, my God, my fucking drama. I could have dealt with that real world drama with my neighbors, I'm sure, and seen it. I didn't need to see it on TV.
They jumped the shark in the last season.
Yeah, no, I'll
tell you what, the Dukes of Hazzard. I recently went in. I was like, I'm going to watch Dukes of Hazzard. Of course, I couldn't find it anywhere, so I did the Amazon purchase for season 1 for whatever the fuck, right? And I never realized this, but the first like 4 or 5 episodes of the Dukes of Hazzard were actually shot in Hazard County, Georgia, or something, and has a completely different look and feel to the set. I mean, there's like things that you would associate with redneck shit, right? And it was a different feel of the show. Matt, you're from like wherever the fuck out there, right? Where are you from?
No, I'm from Illinois, man.
The same thing. What are you same fucking thing?
What?
We're from the Northeast. Everything
East Coast is in the middle is the same.
Yeah. It's like East Coast California and everything else, right?
Yeah,
so anyway,
everything else. Yeah.
Everything else. It's a fly. So anyway, the Dukes of Hazzard, it was so good because it was more risque too. You had Bo Duke getting laid. You know what I mean? It was like, it wasn't just sort of implied that he was the ladies guy. He's getting some, this guy. Yeah. You know,
he
was
like, ass hanging out everywhere.
Oh yeah,
Hold on. I gotta go look up this because I don't.
You gotta check out season 1, episodes 1 through 4. It's worth buying it for $10 on fucking Amazon to watch those 4. After that, it goes to shit. It goes into the standard Dukes of Hazzard, but it's totally worth it, man. I'm telling you.
By the way, Joe, I just and I know it'd be impossible you could prepare for this, but I'm just letting you know. I found a Dukes of Hazzard show. I watch it on YouTube, and I'm literally making an adventure based on one Dukes of Hazzard episode.
Oh, for fuck's sake! How are you going to do that? All right.
You'll see.
All right. I get to drive the General Lee in D&D game. I'm all about it. I don't care.
It really based in Waterdeep.
Did you find it, Matt?
I got Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to buy it.
Yeah, you got to see it though, man. It's really good. It's a different look and different feel. Everything about it is different. You'll feel right at home. I had a lady once.
I was the one that knew what the sound a cow makes.
I didn't know what the fuck. How are you supposed to know what a cow? Tim, that's another thing. We're playing in Tim's game. It was one of the first ones, and we at one point we see a troll, or it looks like a troll across a river. So I'm like, all right, and they put the fear of God into us because we're of course first level, and so we're hiding up on this high hill, and we can have a view of the river, and no campfire, nothing. And it was, I guess, in farmland-ish area. You know what I mean? Next thing you know, you hear something in the middle of the night, And where's Tim? I wish he was here. He can make that fucking. Can you make the sound, Matt? Do you know what the fuck? You how to make that sound?
It's a cow.
I don't know how a cow sounds, but he does some cow chewing cud sounds, and I'm thinking it's a fucking troll gonna. And Matt and Tim just does it. He does the sound because he's from Pennsylvania, you know, and I guess they know. And so he does this cow chewing cud sound, and I'm convinced the troll is right below us, going to kill us. I'm gearing up for war, you know. And Matt understands the sound because he's from wherever the fuck he's from, somewhere in the middle.
You're always thinking Godzilla noise.
I'm thinking Godzilla. I'm thinking this is a Godzilla. And Matt and Tim are like, why is he so worried about the fucking cow chewing cud? And I'm like, I'm gearing up for battle here. I'm thinking I'm going to die, you know. This is the guy who kills you with flowers, you know. So yeah, like I know that. Like I know that shit. Who knows what that is? We don't know that. We don't have cows out here. We just get milk from the store.
We do have them east of the river. We just don't go there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, but it's absolutely, totally get that thing. Get it. It's totally worth it. Hey, speaking of which,
I want a VHS tape. Come on.
You gonna play it, Matt? Is he here the cow chud song or?
All right. Hold on.
Chewing his cud.
What the?
It wasn't that sound. It was like,
would not scare me.
It wasn't that sound. It was some chewing sound.
Joe was terrified, and I was like, "What's he doing, Tim?"
Joey's a paranoid fucking player.
Oh,
Joey's a paranoid fucking player. Let me tell you.
Well, it was, in his defense, it was Tim's campaign.
It was Tim, yeah. I mean, what do you want?
I mean,
all right.
All you have to do is mention Grubs, rock Grubs, to Joe, and it changes his entire attitude. And that's all because of Tim.
Joe, how many days did you count that young red dragon slayer before you had the balls to walk in it?
I'm no fool. I killed your guys enough. I figured revenge is coming. I'm no fool.
We wasted a session and a half of you just hanging out outside waiting.
Hey, we lived, didn't we? Fucking worked.
Yeah, you fought it and you beat it. That's why you lived. You didn't live any more or less because you waited for fucking.
It was all about the intel. It was all about the intel gathering. That's what it was. That's what it was.
You're paranoid.
Well, I'm learned from experience, and these two, it's like the fucking, when you come back from war, you know, Matt, you come back, you hear a sound, you look around for the guy shooting, right? I mean, this is,
Okay, I now own Dukes of Hazzard season 1, so
so do I. So I bought the same thing.
Just bought it. I was wondering why you're both so quiet there for a second. They're both buying.
I was over here buying it on Google Play.
I don't think I want seasons 1 through 7. I don't think
no.
I don't think I have it in me, but I
I'll lose with my attention span won't last that long. But I definitely want to see the different, because I remember it as a kid and I don't remember it being different. But I was probably shit. When did it come out? Oh, it came out in '79.
Yeah. Watch this.
Oh wow.
First 4 episodes. First 4 was PG, I would say. Maybe a little risque-ish on a couple things that you had to understand as an adult, and the next ones were all like G, maybe G, 10-year-olds.
Other than the Daisy Duke shorts.
That was fantastic everywhere. You know what I mean?
Roscoe P. Coltrane.
I love that guy and his dog.
Oh, yeah.
Remember his partner.
They used to have a general down, because there's a restaurant in Nashville that's like Cooter something or other.
Really?
And they used to have the General Lee out front of it, but
wow.
Yeah. Flag, and I think now they have a remodel of his truck down there now, but I've never been to it. I don't know if it's any good, but I always wanted to go there and just get a picture with the General Lee, but I never got a chance.
It's like, I thought I was going to Hooters. I went to Hooters. just a little bit different than the expectations that I had.
God, this thing got fucking derailed, huh?
Yeah, I thought we were supposed to talk about gaming.
I'm trying to bring it back to D&D, but everybody's talking about other shit.
Well, here's one thing to bring it back, because we were sort of leading to this before we got detoured by the Daisy Dukes and shit. But modules, right? We're talking about modules and railroads and how Wizards of the Coast just wants you to buy their modules. I was reading something that talked about modules, especially back in the Pathfinder days when Pathfinder came out. Now here's the thing. Pathfinder comes out, right, to take the place of, because 4th edition sucked ass, and they wanted to be able to keep publishing their modules, so they came out with the Pathfinder game system, and they kept publishing modules. And each of their modules was about every month or 2 months, and they had like 6 modules generally per railroad, right? And so... But their modules back then were put out, and more people bought them just to read them than to play them, because back then Roll20 and the other systems for online playing weren't really going. You didn't really have too many options, and people weren't doing it that much, right? And so there was a ton of people who just couldn't get a fucking group, but they wanted to keep feeding their gaming addiction, right? They wanted to keep feeding themselves with, gaming materials. And so they were, still caught up in the whole 3rd edition splat book thing, a new book every month. And 3rd edition wasn't putting out anything for it sucked. And so they kept buying these Pathfinder modules, and more to read than to play. And so it made me think, as I was reading the post about a review about somebody else's module, and it said it's a decent mod. They didn't like the style, blah blah blah, but it's a module written to be read, not to play, not be played. And I'm wondering how much of that is prevalent today. I mean, I buy the Wizards of the Coast modules to read and to use, but not to play.
Everything from Lamentations of the Flame Princess.
What was that, Matt? Tales of the He's holding up everything he bought from 5th edition.
Tales of the Yawning Portal. Isn't that the only one that has usable shit? Or
it is. For my money, that's the only thing that they put out that I've used.
I don't know. I just got it not too long ago. I was just flipping through it. I was going to say, I was going to ask you guys. I'm assuming all of you have been GMs at one point. Mike, I don't know, but I'm assuming with Joe you have. Did you guys actually run? I know in the very beginning I ran modules. Yeah. But at a certain point, the only module I can remember running after going to AD&D was Ravenloft. Other than that, everything else I made myself. I buy stuff, but I use it. And what I really liked was Dragon Magazine, because the artwork in it, I stole so many gaming ideas. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd read it and I'd be like, oh, that's a cool magic item. I'll steal that or whatever. But I didn't use any of their classes. My friends did, because they wanted I want to play the Cavalier Monk Avatar, whatever thing. And but the artwork always inspired me. And that's what I really did, was I stole from artwork and modules, but specifically artwork, but I'd steal like traps and stuff from modules. But I really didn't run that many modules. Even today, I think actually the what you were talking about earlier, you said I took a campaign, a published one, and that's what I was basing my thing on. That actually is,
the hell's it called?
Dave, it's called the Phoenix Barony. It's by Dave Bezio, Bezio.
Yes, David Bezio.
And then the setting is there, and then the first, because originally my campaign started out as just one shots, and he created a module called the Gatehouse at Cormac's Crag. Mm-hmm. And there were enough similarities in it. I actually contacted him and said, is this in this setting? And actually it is. It's not where I put it, but it is actually in there. But other than that, I really haven't used, I don't think, a published adventure since Ravenloft. I mean, I steal stuff, but I don't actually run as is. So, but I was going to ask you guys, did you guys do that?
You're a fucking mapper, dude.
Yeah, we were mappers.
You are a fucking mapper. Now, I will often use free-written adventures because I like the fucking maps, but if you wrote the adventure and you played in me running it, you'd be going, what the fuck is this shit?
Exactly.
I mean, I recognize the map, but I don't really recognize the adventure going on. When I was running Mouth of Doom from Rappahannock at all the cons with the 3D terrain, I, honest to God, read it through the level once and then said, all right, I got a feel for it, but I'm not running it as it's there. When I ran Teagle Manor at North Texas with the the 4-piece map that covered the whole fucking floor because it was 4 shower curtains. Again, I read the adventure so I would have a feel for the adventure and know what it was going to be like. But then I made my own shit because it's like, well, I'm running for first level characters. Teagle Manor, you could be high level characters and never survive.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? I'll just do my own shit within it. So I use it for inspiration.
Yes.
But you won't find it to be recognizable in most cases.
But did you early on though? No, not always. What's your memory, Geek? What you tell them? What do you remember? Because I'm pretty sure what I remember.
Well, I'm not sure what I was going to say 2 things. Number one, in terms of campaigns and what to do in between adventures, which is what Matt was talking about. Joe, early on, I remembered this, having a conversation with you, like me to you, not in game, saying, hey man, what's my character's going to be adventures? You're like, who fucking cares?
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
No, I want to know.
Exactly.
Like where are we? What's the setting? Because I'm reading Lord of the Rings and I'm feeling like I need to belong somewhere. And you're like, who fucking cares? And then you came around and you're like, yeah, we got to figure this shit out. But what I was going to talk about with what Eric was saying is that I've actually used, and this is to your point, I've used the same map with the same guy in 2 different campaigns, and he didn't pick up on it because I had different monsters. It was a completely different setting. It was a sewer in Dragon Heist. It was like sewer.
Was that with me?
You were helping out. You were.
Okay.
I asked you to help play because he'd have someone with him. But that little subset adventure from Dragon Heist, I used with one of the players in our campaign in 2 different campaigns, but it was the same exact map, and he never picked up on it because it was done in a completely different context, in a completely different adventure, with, of course, completely different monsters. Because you take the map and you do what you want with it, and that, I guess, my point for 5e is between the Yawning Portal, which is a wealth of fantastic modules that you can dissect into.
I've used half of those in my campaign. They're fantastic. They're rewrites of older adventures, other adventures for 5th edition, and you got Against the Giants there. You got some, it's really good.
So many good ones in there. But even the 5e, railroad modules, you don't use all of them. I've in your DMing when I'm playing campaign, you've exploited all that you could, and then I'm taking the same stuff that I've not used, and I'm using it in my campaign because the players haven't seen it. But I mean, like that's.
But back in the day, it was different. Back in my understanding, my remembering of it is, you're right. Back then, it was like you just played the thing in front of you. When we got paid on the paper route, we'd pool our money together, go down to fucking Walden Books in the mall, and we'd sit there and we slit open the adventures in plastic in a corner and read it because we knew that the clerk was inattentive, and we'd be literally sitting on the floor so they couldn't see us in the mirrors. We'd open every fucking adventure that we could, and then carefully open them and read through them and figure out what we wanted to do. And then we stick it back in the plastic and put them back on the shelf, right? And that's
you remember the clerk was our teacher, our 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Brennan.
If we got there a certain time. There was the other guy who gave us the 5-finger discount a couple of times. But anyway, slip him $10 and we could walk out with whatever. I'm not saying we did, but I'm just saying it might have happened.
Theoretically.
Yeah, theoretically, it could have happened maybe if we took advantage of it. But in any case, that's what it was back then. And I break it down by editions. Basic, when we did the red box, and then we went to the advanced 1st edition, it was all about the modules that were in front of us. And then we kind of stopped playing when I went to college, and then we started playing the college again, and that was the 2nd edition era, right? Because I went to college in 88 to 92 when you were 90 to 94, right? Or 95, or how many years you spent? I don't know.
95. I think.
So you took a little detour. But but that was it. 2nd edition was when they came out with the Forgotten Realms, and Forgotten Realms was a much more richly detailed setting, and so it lended itself. The 2nd edition rules and in combination with Forgotten Realms lended itself to more campaign play, and I finally understood the sense of what the hell a campaign was. Right. And I don't think I ever ran. I didn't run a good campaign in a good setting until just fucking last few years. It's an ever evolving skill, I think. You know what I mean? It's just it never goes. You never stop learning how to be a DM. You know.
I think you were though when we were playing 3rd edition Pathfinder 10 years ago. You were heading towards that.
I hated the system though.
You just burnt out on 3rd edition.
I hated it.
Yeah. We got after one contentious session. We played late, and there was some. I don't even know what the argument was about. We used to play about stupid shit back then. We've grown up since then.
Not much.
Granted, we were grown adults. We were 30-something years old, but we got the text at 2 a.m. Hey guys, I'm done. We're not playing this anymore. I'm like,
I texted on the drive home.
Yeah,
I remember I was driving on a dark road. I'm done. I quit. This game sucks. Fuck this edition. Fuck Pathfinder. I'm done.
Yeah,
that sounds like our 5e playtest.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was awesome, right?
I agree of the faults of obviously 3rd and 3.5 in Pathfinder. The complexity was ridiculous. I wouldn't have quit the fucking game, but I do agree that was. Then we went on like a 5-year hiatus and came back to 5e.
We went on hiatus, but I got into the old school shit at the time. That's when I started kicking into that, and it was like, wow, people I play with who like the shit I play in the style I like to play. You know what I mean? And that was the 08. That was around 08, 09 when I started the blog and got into the old school shit and the flail snails. And I had bits and pieces, and this goes all the way back to we started the podcast. I had those bits and pieces in my head, but I wanted to talk to people and learn. And my outlier here is all these ideas of what I think D&D should be, my own little fucking weird shit, or are there other people like me out there? And yeah, I found the blogosphere and I found the old school crew, and we're all in the same boat, liking the same shit. And it's like, wow, I'm not alone. And my play style is not a weird thing. And there's other people who do it the same as I do. And this is kind of neat. You know what I mean? And so I found my niche in a sense, and I found my tribe, and so there it is, So, then I brought that to 5e.
If this is your tribe and we're playing Sesame Street, I'm the thing that doesn't belong.
No, 5e is the thing that doesn't belong. If you notice, I've house ruled the living shit out of 5e, and I've banned and excluded so much it's barely 5e anymore.
You know what? It's more 5e than anything. So I've been playing.
That's an actual copy of Joe's house rules.
Oh. You're not that far off, dude.
I know. I've seen the document, and I'd scroll through it's PDF. I'd be like, wow, no, I'm not even reading all that shit.
It's a bit much, but I've been playing D&D about 2 months less than Joey, so we effectively grew up in the same generation. And I'm not an OSR guy, and I have respect for what you guys feel and do and all that. But I do feel that 5e is I like first edition. It was fun because that's what I grew up with the red box and then a little bit in the blue box, and then AD&D I grew up with. And Joey went away to college, and we didn't play again until I went to college. And like Joey said, and it was second edition. And I would say the most fun I ever had. We talked about this, Joe, and Joe and Bro. The most fun I ever had was second edition, only because it was college.
Yeah.
We had nothing involved going on other than
there was beer involved. I mean,
drinking beer and playing for an entire weekend. So like when I think about the most fun, that's it. But when I think about the best edition of the game, and you guys can do the sign of the cross and call me say it's heresy, I do think 5e does a good job eliminating a lot of the third edition bullshit and Pathfinder, all that, but giving more options than first edition and basic and the red box and all that stuff. And this is where Joey and I can't even imagine you invited me to this podcast, because I'm literally the one guy that doesn't agree with a lot of you in terms of what edition in the game is the best one. But I really enjoy 5e for all it does. And Joey has eliminated lots of shit.
My house rules come down to excising and cutting out.
But you know what? It's not necessarily about the rule set. It's more about I guess ultimately it's about the type of campaign you want to run, right? You don't want a wizard to be able to teleport wherever the hell he wants because he took a chip of wood off of an inn so you can teleport there, right? You don't want to be able to resurrect. And by the way, I don't like resurrect. To me, and you know this, Joe, from when I was 10 years old or 12 years old, I said, if my character dies, I don't want to be resurrected because that's not heroic. I want to be a hero. I don't want to be the guy that dies and you're brought back to life with 2 less content.
But I think 5e makes you a Superman hero versus old school makes you a Batman hero.
Well, think about it. Goodman Games made their name with new school rules with an old school feel. Right? So you could play adventures that were written for 3rd edition, 3.5, and yet still not emulate, but still get that feel that maybe you were playing in an adventure that was written for the old school ways, or the Necromancer products from back in the time. Were similar. So 5e, it's 5e better than 4e? Certainly. Is it better than 3e?
David agrees.
Yeah. So you're saying 4e is not the best. Yeah, exactly.
I don't own a single 4e product. I skipped over that whole generation. I don't even know what was in it.
That's shit. Okay. Listen, if you want everything to be equal, then that's the system for you. If you want no,
isn't that where we're going?
Well, no, believe it or not, you've gone. I'm glad I had some 4e books because I could see what I had to do the sign of the cross for and see what evil there was. And listen, do I like 5e? 5e is too heavy a system for me, but I like my systems lighter. That's just my. Is 5e the rising tide that lifts all ships? Yes, it is. Does it drive business for most publishers? If they are trying to make a living off this, put stuff out. Even Goodman now is putting out 5e. Frog Eye Games, it's 5e in Swords and Wizardry, and on the smaller stuff, even Pathfinder 1e. But Pathfinder 2 is not driving anybody's business. All right, but you have to sell to the masses so you can still do some of the stuff that you want to do.
Well, look at Castles and Crusades. They got their own system. They're one of the founding foundations, I guess, of the OSR. Fuck, there's not a speaker over. And basically, the Castles and Crusades now, I think, is putting every single thing out that they can, including their setting and everything. They have like 15 modules, all 5e. I backed their Kickstarters for it, because I'm going to do the same goddamn thing with those things as I've done with the Wizards of the Coast shit. I'm going to mine it for stuff for 5e.
and
that's where your audience is. If you want to sell 10 of your thing or 1,000, I mean, it makes sense.
You got to, the Troll Lords game stuff is good. I was buying this. I bought that setting before Castle Crusades even came out. If you look at the older Castle Crusades printings, typos are typos and missing paragraphs are.
They have the 7th edition had typos, dude. I think their idea of editing is when the readers send us an email saying you spelled butthole wrong, they'll correct it. You know what I'm saying?
Correct it in future printing. But I mean, again, I've met people behind it, and their love of the game is second to none.
Absolutely, and they worked with Gygax for years, putting out his shit. They put out Castle Zaggy, for God's sakes. They were working instrumentally with him. Yeah.
All right, so Greg is might be best. I think a 5e is a gateway drug. And OSR is the cocaine heroin tier.
That's good. That's true. That's true. The gateway drug. Yeah. So 5e is weed, and OSR is what they think weed is, and OSR is the heroin tier. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that 5e has kind of opened up, and we touched on it a little earlier, that it's not only a game that people play, but now it's legitimately become entertainment as well. People that don't play watch, and I think that's a weird thing for me, because I've tried to watch actual plays and I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this? I just go play. It'd be way more fun. But I think it's interesting how that's came to be about. But one thing I'm old school, so I got to get on your mic. The one thing that I hear a lot of people that are 5e people say, and you alluded to it, was it gives you options.
Yes.
And my counterpoint to that, and this comes from a actual game session that I played. I was playing Pits and Perils, and I may have said this before on this show. I know I've said it a couple times. I had a guy who was playing, and they were all old school guys, except for one guy was introduced with 3E. And if you've ever looked at Pits and Perils, it is as thin as OD&D, so it's very rules light. And we got to a point where they encountered a monster, they were fighting it, and I turned to one guy and I said, "Hey, what do you do?" And he looked down at his character sheet and he said, I don't know what I can do. I don't know what none of my stuff on my character sheet tells me what I can do. And that is when I had the epiphany that everybody who says that the options are there with 5e, the problem is certain people, I'm guessing you, like those options written down in black and white. You want them spelled out, you want them defined so that you and the DM are on the same sheet of music and you have an equal playing field. The DM can't bend the rule because the rule says in the rule book that once per round you can whip your willy out and beat the snake with it or something. But in old school, you have that option too. I mean, I don't know how many times Joe comes up with some cockamamie, crazy ass shit that isn't covered by the rule book. But the difference is he trusts, and I'm just using this as an example, he trusts me or Tim to adjudicate it in a way that makes sense with the rules and the rules of the setting.
Yeah.
And I think that is where the big difference, at least that's the way I really define old school and new school gaming, is you either want it written down in a book that says I can do X, and the DM, shouldn't, not allow you to do that. Whereas old school, we say, hey, you're a human on planet Earth. I mean, you know what humans on planet Earth can do, right? You can pick up a sword and whack somebody over the head with it. I mean, we just don't have those rules hard line written down in black and white. So anyway, that's my point I wanted to make.
So allow me to retort, because you said what Joey's been saying to me for what seems like 8 gazillion years. And all I'm saying is, and Joey won't dispute this as much as he likes to dispute everything I say.
Not always. Only when you agree with me, I don't dispute it.
Right. My point is that what's wrong with a framework? What's wrong? Like now, I would agree that 3rd edition 3.5 Pathfinder was too rigid. I feel and so I agree. If I had to pick 1st edition, red box, blue box, 2nd edition, which are all effectively the same in my eyes in terms of their rule set, versus 3rd edition, I would go back old school all day. I feel 5e gives a framework, a scaffolding, if you will, of basic skills. They really reduce the feats. I mean, God, if you look at the feats compared to 5e, you really need to pick and choose. I've got 2 guys, 16th level, legit, that have earned their stripes because Joey's tried to kill them every night for the past fucking 3 years.
Pretty much.
You got 16th level, and they each might have 1 or 2 feats, right? Compared to 3rd, that whole genre where you've got 12 feats by now, right? If you're a fighter.
And you'd have to plotted them out from level 1 all the way through. But what do you like the difference? The main thing you've always said to me, though, is that you like the difference of having every fighter now in 5th edition is different than every other fighter, depending on what you take and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's one thing you said. But I think that it's an illusion of difference. It's an illusion because at the end of the day, it's only +2 more to something. But that gives you, you know what I mean? It's only a numerical thing.
I don't agree. I don't agree because it's situational. It's not +2. It's only +2 if you're in a situation that gives you +2. And granted, +2 in 5e doesn't exist. But my point is, like, you got my point. It's +2 if a certain situation exists. Now,
but if you're doing that, you might as well go play Powered by the Apocalypse, Dungeon World, where when you are encountered with a shadow creature, you now can have a +2 to do this. Or if it sounds like you're defending, I'm just beating up Dungeon World because I hate it.
Listen, I have a real world experience with this because I had to run Swords and Wizardry for 5e players at GaryCon 2 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago, because the GM got snowed out, didn't show up, and a 3:00 game at 3:05, I was told I was running it. And I walk up to the game table and I said, listen, I apologize. You're expecting a 5e game. I have the rules. I did not know them nearly well enough to run them. I do have Swords and Wizardry Light, which is an OSR game. It's 4 pages. We can run with that. You can all create your own characters. Full table, 8 players. If you don't feel comfortable with that, you can walk away. No harm, no foul, no hurt feelings. One person walked away, and one random guy said, "Is that a free seat?" So now I was back to 8. And they were up and running 15 minutes. 10 minutes into the game, his first encounter, I have a guy go, it's a verbal encounter initially. And the guy's like, I roll detect lie. I go, there's no detect lie.
I roll detect lie.
I go, listen, do you think he's not telling the truth? If so, that's fine. Next encounter. I'm gonna roll to intimidate. All right, well listen, what are you doing to intimidate him? What do you mean, what am I doing? I'm gonna roll my intimidate score. You don't have an intimidate score, dude. This isn't the game that you're looking for, apparently. Because you want all this stuff defined, and I'm asking you, if you want to intimidate, spell it out. Tell me. And others at the table were getting it. It's like, yeah, dude, you got to role play it. And I was like, wow, that's an interesting way to look at how to play a role playing game. That you have to role play it and take the, because if you're an old school gamer, one of the first, Joe, you weren't part of this, but when we were running in with Greg, and Greg was running the D&D Next playtest.
Yeah.
The game, the group fell apart when we had a player freak out because somebody role played an encounter without rolling a die, and the goblins were like, "Oh, all right, dude. All right, we're gonna bullshit. I call bullshit. There's no die roll that can't happen." And therein lies a bridge too far for some people.
Yeah.
You know, listen, as an old school GM, do I necessarily roll morale for the other side? Oh, gee, if they lost 4 out of a group of 8, and I think they have a place they can fall back upon, they're falling back. I don't need to roll. Right. I don't need to look up the proper roll in the. Well, according to page 67 of the DMG that nobody fucking reads anyway. What I'm supposed to do in 5e is I'm supposed to say, is this a minion? Is this no, dude? Just fucking go back on it. So I think that 5e is good if you are not a skilled GM. It gives you the tools that are crutches that I can't figure this one out on my own. I can't make the decision. Make it for me. Therein lies the great thing about 5e. They have the tools to make those decisions for you. But if you have the ability as a GM to make the decisions and you have players that trust. Now, that's another thing about old school gaming that we're not talking about. Old school gaming requires trust. Mm-hmm. You have to trust the GM to not just be fair, but to be honest and give you a fun, enjoyable time. Doesn't mean you're all going to live, but you can have a fun, enjoyable time.
Exactly.
Whereas with 5e, the idea is everybody is supposed to be on an even playing field, and we've got all these rules spelled out, and you should be able to figure out exactly what's going to happen, because even with the variables, the variable means less than the actual scenario, which, as is written, is pretty much meant to be a railroad, right? So again, it's two different styles of play, from the adventure and how it's run and how the rules are written. Mm-hmm. And in between, can you run 5e as an old school game? Sure,
I try. I try all the time.
Joey does. No, Joe.
Right.
Joe,
but Mike, that means that when you're playing in Joe's games, you're really not playing 5e.
Truly,
you're not playing 5e within the limitations of 5e.
You're right. Let me address Matt's comment, because it's mildly offensive. But I'm giving you a pass because you don't know me and you don't know the campaign. But Joey doesn't allow that bullshit. Like, no. Joey doesn't allow. I don't have an ability, therefore I can't do anything. And by the way, I've been playing as long as Joey has, so I understand the concept of doing things outside the box. And Joe, take 2 sessions ago when we were outnumbered about a zillion to 1, and we role played out of that.
Yeah, I was surprised. Dwayne pulled that shit out of his ass, and it worked well.
Well, to be quite honest, he
was your idea?
Pulled out of his ass, and then I pulled out of his ass.
All right. Well, whatever whose ass you guys are up inside of.
We had all kinds of.
We're not the type of a podcast, all right?
Yeah.
But my point is, I don't rely on what my abilities are. I'm an old school player
within a 5e framework,
right?
Yeah.
So
hey, there's no wrong way to play. Play how you like it. And,
as long as you're having fun, that's all that matters.
But I mean,
now, we're just saying you're playing wrong because you're not playing our way.
Now, here's one thing that's different, though. Here's one thing that's different that we're going to lose people. There's going to be a generation gap, all right? Eventually, and I think we're already hitting there with 5e, because there's a concept of certain archetypes, right? There is the old school, like you look at Appendix N or whatever, N or something like that in the back of the DM guide, and had all these books that Gygax read.
Right there.
Right, and had all these books that Gygax read and all these influences, right? Now, from all these influences, these characters were of a certain archetype. You had the Aragorn Ranger archetype, you had the Trickster Thief archetype, you had the Barbarian Warrior archetype, you had the Conan archetype, you had all these certain types of things that everybody kind of wanted to be or play because they were fucking cool. And we all had this sort of a standardized set of archetypes, right? 5e has races and classes based on archetypes that I can't fucking relate to. It was so bad that when I was running a game in a game store down, and there was, again, this is a game with a lot of kids too. And they're like in their young 20s, just out of college kind of guys, like 4 or 5 of them. And then there's one older woman in her 60s who played fucking AD&D back in the 70s. But everybody else was just fresh out of college age. And they're all coming up with these different archetypes than I am. They wanted to play the half Titan bard fucking stupid whatever the fuck shit, right? And all these things. I'm like, no, that doesn't exist in the world. I said, I had to explain the setting drives what classes and races are available. Just because you saw it in a goddamn cartoon 3 years ago when you were in high school doesn't mean it exists in my fucking game. You can't play the fucking Ninja Turtle, Barbarian, Turtle, wherever the fuck the class and race is.
You can play a turtle now.
No, that's what I'm saying. You can do it in the game. They wanted to do it in mine. I said it doesn't exist in my setting. Well, what do you mean your setting? I said my setting rules everything, not your fucking your wish, desire, fulfillment to play the cartoon you watched last year.
But that's not why I bought the rules. I want to play.
Yeah, exactly. My setting, my big thick setting book, and and so what I did was I said, listen, instead of trying to beat them over the head and just say no, I tried to explain to them, and I made a list for them. And I said, here are 10 movies. I have several of them, right, in my house, and I'm gonna lend them to you. You will watch each of these movies, and for each movie you say you watch, you're gonna get your character. Your character in this setting will gain 500 XP. And on that list, what I was trying to do is convey my archetypes so they understand the type of game I wanted to play. And I gave them Conan the Barbarian. I gave them Tombstone with Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
I gave them Heavy Metal, the old cartoon. I got all these fucking, Rambo, I think, was on there. I wanted to convey certain feel, certain grit, certain archetypes of a style that I wanted. And they watched them and they liked some of them. They couldn't understand others, but at least it tried to bridge the gap. But I think at some point we're going to hit a certain point where the archetypes are so divergent that we're not going to be able to understand why the hell somebody want to play that stupid ass My Little Pony shit.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the next versions of the game might be alien to us. And just for the record, my D&D DNA, to Joey's D&D DNA, is like humans to chimpanzees. It's like 99.9% fucking the same. I just have a preference to 5e versus his because of the architecture. But I agree 100% with what he's saying in terms of how the game is going and how it's pandering to a generation that wants shit without earning it. And that's ultimately what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I can get on my political soapbox right now, but I think he's 100% right. Like right now, it's people want to create their characters and create these four page backstory. It's like, you don't get a backstory, motherfucker. Give me a paragraph.
Just tell me your name. And the story is what you do.
You've not done anything until you've gotten first level, right?
Yeah,
so no, yeah. I agree. Like I think the game has catered to a certain genre. I'm gonna try to not be political. That has embraced this and given 5e, like the version of 5e that I play is the version I like to play. It's Joey's version with Matt likes to show that page and inch and a half of house rules, and it's a certain feel, but it's within the construct of the rules. And Joe, I dare say you've gotten to not hate it over the time we've played it.
It's only because we're playing a limited game. If I had to play full-blown 5e with anybody allowed anything in the rule books, I wouldn't play it.
That's what I'm saying, though. You've grown. Yeah. This is a big step. You've grown to not hate the version of 5e that we played.
I've grown to not hate my version of 5e, yes.
Well, yeah, and I will agree with you. I actually, when 5e first came out, I actually liked it. I mean, I only had I think it was the box set that had the basic rules in it.
Right.
And I thought that was great. I thought it was good. I actually ran Strahd, Ravenloft, the 5e version. Oh, yeah? And I can tell you, I that was actually one of the first campaigns that I came back into when 5e came out. That was what I was running. And I think it's got a good bones, but I think it also, and this will piss off some people, I liked AD&D until they brought out all the splat books, because then every player and their brother wanted to play a cavalier that could do these magical shit and things.
Right.
Everybody wanted all these different racial abilities because now they had the little halfling book and the Viking book. And I think that's one of the reasons I kind of, degraded back to old school was I didn't like all those choices, and that's one of the things that kind of turns me off. I like you were saying, Joe, you called your players and said you sent them a text and said you quit.
Yeah,
I ran 5e Ravenloft until they bumped into Strahd the first time, and the amount of planning, and I get it. He's like, I don't know what the term is in 5e, but they have like legendary status or some shit. So they're like understood not to be the same type level as a PC. But I actually was at the time, Stuart Robertson and I were talking like constantly, and I was asking him, how do you run this? How do you plan this? How do you think Strahd would go at this? Because I had one bad guy encountering an entire party, and I wanted to make sure that it was challenging and that they thought they maybe had a chance, but I also wanted him to bitch slap him because he's a god.
Yeah, he's Strahd.
There was so much planning. I mean, literally for like 3 weeks, me and Stuart were going back and forth with him because he'd been playing longer than me. Yeah, giving me tips on, your player is probably going to come at you with this spell. And after that battle, which Strahd did bitch slap them around a little bit, I think I emailed all the players and I said, I'm done. Sorry, guys. Because so much planning went into it. And that may be, if I grew up with 5e, I'd be okay with that.
Yes.
But if you said right now, hey, guys, we're having a good chat, let's go play a game, I guarantee you I could whip some shit up and run for 8 hours without thinking about it.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's kind of why I go back to, I run OSE now, and that's why. Now, on 5e, I will say I recently was given a copy of, it's called Satanic Mars, which...
All right. Is that a Raji thing? Is that a Raji thing?
No, it's not. It's actually interesting, but it has I think on the cover it says, hold on, I've got it right here. I can pull it up. It says it's got a quick version of a mini game. Here, that's on the cover. Includes a complete mini system compatible with 5e. And it really is, if you took 5e and got rid of all of your stupid feats that make you into superhuman. Yeah. And it's got race, it's got some skills added to it, and it's got classes that you can play. So it has all that, and it's running on the framework that's 5e. So I do think that the 5e is a good thing, but I'll never play it. I won't even play in a 5e game just because I hate what it's become now.
Yeah,
I'll get off my political soapbox. I don't really. The game isn't the game that I recognize anymore, and that's just.
Well, and here's the thing: my opinion on 5e and the future 5e that we're not.
You are super scratchy,
way scratchy, Eric. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How's that better?
No.
Sounds like he's shaving.
Shit.
Yeah, it sounds like you're gargling and shaving at the same time.
I don't know what's going on. God damn it!
Yeah, it's still going.
Wow.
Hey, Joe, you know Matt. I don't know Matt. Would you say that, like, if he did a cameo appearance in one of your 5e games, that he would completely hate it?
No, because the style of game I run is, as much as I can make 5e old school in style. You would like the lower level game, Matt, because it's simpler. But as you get higher level, there's more things on your character sheet to have to deal with. Not that you would rely on them or want to rely on them, but you'd kind of need to in order to keep pace with the bad guys who have more things on their sheets too.
But that's regardless of any system. You're higher level, you got more.
Yeah. OSE, you'd get that too.
Yeah, a little bit, but not as much as 5e goes. Like first edition, low level shit. I could run 5e Fandolin for Matt, and he would enjoy it just as much as you guys did because I'd scale it back.
Yeah, and I think that again, it's a play style, and I mean, what is it? The old school primer, Matt Finch. I know every time I talk, I mention it.
Yep.
That is really, and it goes back to what I was saying before. Are you looking at your character sheet to solve the problem in front of you, or are you being in it? I know I've heard this discussion before. Is it player skill or is it character skill? What is the angle that you enjoy the most? Me, I enjoy challenging the players. Yes, they have tools that can help them on their character sheet, but in the end, it's the players and their ingenuity, and that's the kind of thing that really interests me. I like throwing a problem at the players, and then they come up with a unique, distinct, different And that's one thing I actually like about my group now that I have, although it's getting a little big, but I think all of us come from so many different backgrounds and so many different styles that bye, Happy Whisk. I think it adds so many different dimensions to the game and lots of different ways of thinking and everything. Yeah. By the way, I looked up the Leshy.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell that is.
Apparently, it is a Russian or Polish spirit of some sort.
Huh.
Okay.
That's interesting.
All right, am I still scratchy?
No, you're good.
No, you're good.
Somehow my fucking headset took over my mic again.
It's a virus. The headset
Matt,
virus.
I agree with you, Matt, in that it's got to be a combination of the tools you have and the decisions you make.
Yeah.
But I don't agree that 5e takes away from the decision making part of it. And maybe I don't.
But that's the difference, because you don't play it like that, Geek. You don't play it like where 5e would. You never. If you ever played 5e with a group of people that I played in the game store, the library, you would see that dynamic in effect. We don't play it like that, so you don't see it. So it seems like it's okay. 5e as written.
Why is that 5e versus how the DM wants to run 5e?
It's because it goes back to what we were saying before, is that newer DMs aren't coming in learning how to be a DM. They're coming in with enough tools to understand the models that were put in front of them.
And so not only that, but what about the players? The players that are learning in 5e right now, I could be wrong. You know, apologies to any new 5e players that I'm misunderstanding you. But just like I said, when I was playing with my 3e friend, he didn't understand that just because it isn't written on his character sheet, he could try something else. Mm-hmm. He was looking for the solution because he was looking for a feat or an ability or something that's on his character sheet, rather than going, I'm a human with a brain. And I'm not saying 5e doesn't allow that. I think as a tool, teaching people how to play, like this perfect. Okay, 10 years from now, I guarantee you the generation that is learning with 5e right now will not have the problem-solving natural ability that people that learn to play AD&D or even OD&D do.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can tell you right now, we're hiring people at our company. We have a guy right now that makes a lot of money. He has zero problem-solving capability, and he's a quality person. Hopefully he doesn't play video games or role-playing games and watch this. So, but anyway, I might be diming him out here, but he has zero, absolutely, when he comes into a problem, he stops and he just legitimately can't get the gears going to figure out how to solve that problem. And like I did almost 23 years in the Army, and everybody would always ask me why I did good. And I was a introverted, I was the kid hiding in the back of the class when I was in high school. And the Army, and a combination of the Army and role playing, taught me how to. I mean, Joe will tell you can't get me to shut up. I'll talk for hours, like right now.
No, really.
I will talk, and I can solve problems. And that's what I mean. I retired from the Army, and I walked into a logistics job. And within 3 weeks, I was in charge of the place because of my problem-solving capability. And I say that is all going back to playing role-playing games when some asshole like Joe threw a death trap in front of me, and I couldn't look at my sheet and say, find traps, disarm traps. Because I'm an elf, I get 27 extra dice to roll. How do you search for the trap? And then I have to think about, well, okay, is it this kind of a trap or this kind of trap? And I have to describe that and solve all those problems. So I'm not saying 5e isn't a great system. I just don't think it's creating the same type of role players as our generation.
Exactly.
So
right.
I'm going to not admit I'm wrong, but
never.
I'm going to admit your point that players that play 5e as their first edition of the game are going to be stunted fools. But because I grew up with Red Box and Blue Box and AD&D, and now have you guys won't use their advanced, but gotten to the point of 5e, I appreciate the schematics. I appreciate the rhubarb. I appreciate rebarb, I should say. the framework. But I also hold, and Joey agrees with this, I also hold to the old school where, like, you know, there's plenty of times when Joey and I play. First of all, Joey almost outlawed healers. Like, it's been my barbarian.
Wow,
and my
Joe, that's evil.
You know, he didn't outlaw them, but he just prevented me from fucking having any in my group.
Yeah.
So
not prevented, just made it very, very difficult.
Yeah, a barbarian and a wizard, basically. And, you know, yeah, we're survivable, and it keeps me on my toes. But my point is, I have to be on my toes. There's been times when I've been down to one spell in my cantrips out of 21 spell slots, you know? And at that point, it's not, what do I have? It's what the fuck am I going to do, you know? And I think 5e still gives the framework to play an old school game. Granted, not
if
as
you got an old school DM and old school players.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And what Matt is saying is that you're not going to be able to develop into an old school style player playing 5e.
You might
learn it from
it's hard. It's difficult. Right. It's not if you're watching fucking Matt fucking Mercer.
No.
You know?
No.
Well, you know what though? If I hang around on like itch.io, and I've been on some Discords and stuff like that, and there are a lot of these players that are 5e, and you go to like some of their forums and stuff, and you will see them say, hey, what's this old school thing I hear about? So I think it's kind of interesting that some of them are, I don't know if they're finding that 5e isn't working for them, or maybe they're just curious what else is out there. But it's interesting how many of those comments I've seen where people are interested in what OSE does as a game different from 5e. And I think you're right. You can run 5e that way if you want. Yeah. It's just, I won't be playing it with you, but
yeah. I mean,
I don't play in games that often anyway.
Isn't that the Dungeon Muser guy? He's a convert, right? He was a new guy to gaming, and he started with the old school shit. Wasn't that guy?
Who?
Dungeon Muser, the YouTube channel, the Dungeon Muser. What the fuck's his name?
Oh.
I don't think you're going to find any new players who are going to hearken to old school at all, because it's just, listen, I get it. I played all of them. It's just not. It's not the generation. They need.
Go ahead and say it. They need coddling.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Well, and you guys touched on another thing earlier. You were talking about. I think it was Joe. I think you were saying some of the adventures, every chapter or every session, they were supposed to go up a level. And I mean. Yeah. Jesus, we just did session 20 of my campaign yesterday, and the elf, of course, is still first level. So he's done 20 sessions. Well, he's missed a couple because of work, but 20 sessions. His ass is, I think he's still like 1,000 away from third or second level. We've got one guy who's third, and Joe, what was Olin when he died? Sorry.
He was a fucking pubic hair from third, man, and you killed him.
Oh, see? So I mean, 20 sessions. So I think you're going to see a dynamic of a third, or a fifth edition person comes to an old school game campaign, and they're like, woohoo, finished our first session, second level, right? And the GM's going to be like, fuck, bitch, you got like 50 experience points and you're alive. Be happy.
Matt, it was Questing Beast, Matt. That's the guy. Wasn't he a convert?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Ben Milne.
But Matt, seriously, don't you want to evolve your campaign into something where your characters become those guys, like,
Sure, but can't they do that without being 10th level? I mean, right now, my guys in this town probably, except for Wolfstan, are probably the most notorious, famous people in the town because they helped stop an orc army from crushing the town.
Yeah, it's true. We got free room and board.
And they're no level. I mean,
yeah.
But it's their characters and the story that they're telling that is making an engaging campaign. It isn't the fact that they're going up in levels. Now, yes, they like to go up levels and they get experience and they get new magic items and things like that. But it's and gaming for me is I want to have fun and I want to tell a good story. I want the guys to have a good time, and I want us to have an engaging good time. Really, that's it. Period. Now. I know you guys were talking a little bit about it earlier. My campaign is expanding because now I've realized we've got the one-shot phase of just popping into these different barrows out of our system. Yep. We all want something a little bit more. I mean, before the session last night, they were talking about, I did a gold dump and gave them a bunch of shit. And they're talking about maybe buying a house or, a base of operations in the town. And I mean, that's growth. Why does it have to be, I gave you experience, you got a new feat, or you got more hit points? I mean, shit, sometimes a new magic item is better than going up a level. I mean, it doesn't have to be gaining experience and getting a new level, or I think you can grow without that. But, maybe that's a little too story gaming. I don't know.
No, because it's all relative. I don't disagree with any of that. I agree with all of that. You know, we in the campaign Joey ran, they were playing. We had basically a Hall of Justice at 5th or 6th level. Like,
and then everybody died at TPK, and it became the Hall of one guy owns this fucking big place.
Now my guys, we survived, motherfucker. I'm a survivor. But I guess, Matt, what I'm trying to say is, I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. Like, you can.
Oh no, I agree.
Like, I think don't and maybe Joe, I don't know. Back me up. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't agree.
For $1, I will.
All right, I'll give you that. So I guess what I'm saying is, you can have the story-based campaign. You can have the advantages and the outside of the rules leveling of, like, in my campaign, we had like 6 guys that owned an inn. There's only one alive right now. He's a
keep dying.
Everybody keeps dying. One guy owns the entire inn right now. So, like, that's effectively a level, right? He's getting all the income from that inn. But I guess my point is, you can have, and this is me, Matt, asking you as a DM, don't you someday want to dungeon master some dudes who are going against Asmodeus? Like,
good question. Do you like that high of a game, Matt?
Right. That's my question.
I think the highest I've ever ran is like that one campaign. I think it topped out. A couple guys were like 9th or 10th level.
You don't want
AD&D.
Like, you don't want to get these guys to the point where.
If I'm having fun at whatever level we're at, what's it matter? I mean, sure, if he goes there. I mean, but I don't like have this desire. Like, I have to run
it sounds
a high level campaign.
Things out in advance.
Matt, don't get me wrong.
Who wants to do that?
An accusation. It's a question. I'm truly curious, because I, as a dungeon master, like, and this is hypocrisy, because my character is 6th or 16th level, and every campaign I've run, the dumbasses keep TPKing, right?
Yeah, they do.
Like,
they stood there. I killed them off. 3 fireballs in a row. They wouldn't move. They all clumped together. 3 fireballs in a row. They wouldn't move.
Yeah.
They would have already died.
These motherfuckers got to earn it. And I want them to earn it.
Well, let me ask you this. What is it about the high-level gaming that attracts you? And the reason I ask that is, as you go up in power and ability, doesn't all of your don't all of your adversaries equally go up in power and capabilities? So really, you're telling the same story. You're just inflating it with really, what's the difference between telling the story you're going to tell at 10th level versus a story I'm going to tell at 3rd level?
Because it's the players, and this is a very easy answer for me. As a dungeon master, playing with players. Now, granted, maybe players don't want this. And if the players don't want this, then, of course, this is a moot question. But if there's certain players, and Joey's one of these players, that if they want the grandiose, I want a fiefdom, I want to rule, I want to be a player in the world political, magical schema, then there's a complete difference. It's got nothing to do with the relative combat.
Yeah, that's the thing. And that goes back to what, remember, Matt, you created you asked us for backgrounds, because when you were going to do your campaign, make it into a whole, long campaign setting, and you said you wanted backgrounds and goals. And I said the goal is to eventually kill everything, get all the money, be all the magic, and become a god. Right?
By the way.
If the game goes there, that's great. But I mean, if you want to be a king of a kingdom, could you do that at 5th level? Why do you have to be 10th level to do it? Okay. Don't do that. Oh, you got to be 9th level to have followers.
No, not that. No. But it's just cool to be the king of the kingdom, and if a demon lord comes, you get to kill the demon lord in single combat. He tries to kill your kingdom.
But yeah, no, I understand if that's what players want, then that's cool. But I mean, if the game leads there, then that's great. We can do that. I mean,
how high did you get, Eric, in your campaigns? Did you play high level games back in the day?
Honest campaigns.
Well, whatever, either or. You know what I mean?
You know, the one adventure, one level, we got up to like, a few characters got up to like 18 or 20.
Okay.
Most topped around 10th, 11th. Mm-hmm. But legitimate campaigns usually max around levels between 7 and 9. That's usually where it came to a halt. And it came to a halt for many reasons. Usually part of it was we've been playing with these characters for a year and a half, and people wanted to take a break and try Rifts or Call of Cthulhu or Warhammer, and they wanted to take a break and a change of pace.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you've accomplished a hell of a lot as a PC.
Yeah.
And for me as a player, I don't see the thrill and excitement of playing 15th level. I don't see it. If the campaign takes it there, that's great. But that's not my end goal. My end goal is to have fun.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm having fun, the level doesn't matter. My goal is
I see it too.
Hey, if my PC can get to a point where I own property, then I'm probably going to be retiring. You're not going to be adventuring and be the lord of a castle.
That's
because who's managing your castle? Go away for a month to adventure. You're gonna come home and somebody else is sitting on your throne.
The fifth edition game they come out with. What the fuck was it called? Tales of not the Yawning Portal. The other one, the water, the heist one in Waterdeep Heist or whatever the hell it was called.
Dragon Heist.
You start out at first level, and if you succeed on the first adventure that Volo gives you, you end up owning a tavern.
Yeah.
So, talk about a stark difference.
That's not terrible.
That's not bad. But again, you're not responsible for a kingdom, right?
Yeah.
It's a tavern. It's like owning a silent interest in some place. You're gonna have somebody running for you. It's a home base to come back to.
That's what it is. Yeah, exactly.
That's different.
Exactly. We've
been doing this for me. At the end, it's the story. If the story leads there, I mean, like that campaign I was talking about that I ran in high school when they were 9th or 10th level, they were trying to find, I believe it was 7 magical swords, the old trope, 7 magical swords that would allow them to shut some gate that would keep some demon from coming to the planet and killing everybody. And I mean, so they were solving high level, world shattering, world saving activities. But I mean, I don't know. It's the story for me. If the story sucks, and I mean, I know, Joe, I don't think you were in that campaign. A campaign I ran before that, the story started sucking. Everybody kind of was going different ways, and I was like, fuck it, ended it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what does it for me. I mean, I'll be honest, when we get up to about 6th, 7th level, I'll be struggling a little bit. I'll have a little hard time DMing because I like the lower end games. I like where your death is right around every corner.
Yeah.
And you don't have 15 goddamn sleep spells that you can unleash on a dungeon.
But wait, are you trying to suggest that death isn't around every corner at high levels?
No, I'm not. I knew you were gonna go there. Are you sure you're not a millennial? No, I know the higher level, but when you're lower level, everything can kill you. Not just everything.
Especially if it's poisonous, save or die, no matter what the poison is.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean in old school. So yeah. Hey guys, folks, it's been 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I'm about to say that we've broken the 2.5 hour mark.
2.5 hours here.
Right to the background. You've exceeded your time limit.
Oh, she's shutting you down. Got to do what Mama says.
It was good, man. I saw it's past 2 hours. And I'm like, this conversation's too good.
Yeah.
And then, of course, my headset started to have a mind of its own. Well, at least I know that with this setup, I can use my mic and my internal speakers and not get feedback, apparently.
Yeah. No, it sounds good. Whatever you're doing now sounds good.
They've come a long way in that stuff. The whole noise canceling works very well these days.
Yeah. All right. So at least I know that for the future, because that headset gets like fucking hot in the summertime. Listen, Matt, Mike, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, because Joe and I would have had a decent episode without you all, but the two of you are like polar opposites, but like from the same like origin.
Yeah.
So it's like,
well, he mildly insulted me before, but
no, you don't understand.
He won't be coming back now.
Insults everybody. He was military. It comes with the territory.
I was naval intelligence, but I never called someone a millennial out of spite.
No.
There we go.
No. He's Army, all right?
Yeah. Listen, that's the difference, Army, Navy.
Take it for what it is. Naval intelligence just means that you were smart enough not to be a grunt.
All I did was look at spy satellite photographs. Anyway, my point was to say that Joey runs a cutthroat campaign, and I'm scared every time I fucking play with that motherfucker. Almost every time, unless it's
that's Tim. Tim and Matt have beaten that into me to make your players scared and equals fun. So
Well, that's part of the secret. You learn from others, right? And you take the best and you make your own.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll say this: if you have good people at your table, you can play any system except for Pathfinder and Rifts and have a great time.
You left out 40, dude. You left out 40.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, that doesn't exist. I played 3. Yeah, I played 3. I dabbled with 3.5, and I appreciate
your blind spot. I wish I had it.
And for those listening home, if you think that Matt and my brother were fighting, they're not. They're both ball busters. They're not disagreeing, and they're not saying they're insulting each other in real life. They're just ball busters.
Yeah, they're going to walk over to a corner and never mind. I was going to say something, but it might be offensive to both of them. So I probably
maybe I'll have to come out there sometime. I'll have to come out there sometime, and you can do the fireside chat, and I'll be there.
Oh, that'd be fucking awesome, dude. That'd be awesome. Yeah. You do get to New York sometimes, don't you, Matt?
No, I get up to Connecticut and up in there. Boston, I've been a couple times.
All right, that's awesome.
Get to Connecticut. I'll go to Connecticut from where I'm at. That's fine.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Come on up, man. That'd be fucking great. All 4 of us will do a fucking fireside chat.
Nashville has flights everywhere nowadays. I can get anywhere pretty cheap.
All right. That'd be cool.
Well,
all right,
again,
by the way, I just want to tell you, Eric and Joe, before I joined this,
yes,
and I think I'm about to insult myself. Until I joined this, I thought this was your best episode.
So it went downhill since you joined. You're saying
after I joined it, I'm saying I really enjoyed this one because again, you guys know this. I'm not like some old school aficionado, but I really enjoyed the podcast up until I joined it, and I enjoyed it even more after I enjoyed it. Especially after Matt insulted me a few times.
Yeah.
It makes you part of the
you're Joe's brother.
Family.
I gotta love you, man.
Insulted, you're not loved. You should know that by now.
That's how we roll. Thanks, yeah, it's a good time. Thanks for joining, guys.
Yes, folks. Yep. If you're listening on YouTube or if you're listening on the podcast side, please go to youtube.com/Eric Tenkar. Subscribe to the channel. We've been picking up subscribers. It means a lot because it means more people in the chat when we're doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Joe and I will be back together 2 weeks from today.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Next week should be myself and Glenn Hallstrom. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m., Rach and I will be doing an episode of Gamers Health. And then I'll be quiet until Wednesday, at least for the live streams.
Next
God help us.
On Friday night in D&D.
All right.
All right, folks.
Later, guys.
Later.